Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum to Ijaz Hamza, Nazam, Dr. Imran. So, Historicity of the Gospels, Matthew Part 3. And I believe I'm going to start off by asking Ijaz about his hot coffee. Do you have a hot coffee today, Ijaz?
Yes, so let me just get into this quickly. You guys would have noticed that the previous coffee cup was way too big, like the size of my face, and I could only fit like 3 fingers in it. I can grip this one. But people have been wrongly making a false assumption here. Let me refute some false assumptions. This is not a cup of Coke. This is not a cup of Pepsi. This is Starbucks' French roast coffee. It's the darkest roast, and it has a very smoky flavor, just as Chelsea Football Club when they play weaker teams like United or Liverpool. Thank you.
What? All that was to just do some cheesy fun about football. Flipping it. I was waiting for something exciting. Again, Jordan's eyes glaze over.
Yeah, football comes on. Oh, I'm out here.
All right. Yes, assalamu alaikum, everybody. We're back again with Matthew. This should be the wrap-up show on Matthew. We've done 2 previous streams on Matthew, challenging the authorship of Matthew, the history of the manuscripts of Matthew, the content of Matthew, the historical claims within Matthew, the prophecies claimed within Matthew. And we've been going, and we've had Christians coming on, and we've had like some Christians will come on and say, oh, Matthew's not historical. And then another Christian will say, well, no, it is historical. Then another Christian will come on and say, no, the author of Matthew is not Matthew the disciple. And then another Christian will come and say, no, it wasn't. So here's the thing, you see, you're in chaos right now. You Christians, you don't even know what you're supposed to believe. I mean, we're the Muslims, alhamdulillah. We're looking at this, and you Christians are everywhere. I mean, this is supposed to be your holy book. This is supposed to be your word of God. And all of a sudden, you don't even know who's what, who's writing when. Is it historical? Is it not? And even the ones saying it's not historical don't understand the ramifications of that. No. Because it's not historical. It just means, well, maybe it didn't happen. So stop quoting it as if it's history. that might help. Anyway, so today should be the wrap-up, inshallah. Obviously, as usual, we'll let the Christians on come and have their say. And maybe, inshallah, maybe change our minds on certain things. We'll see. Maybe they can even agree on something. Who knows? So, yeah, without further ado, would anyone else like to say anything?
Yep. I want to say that the feedback has been phenomenal on this series, especially on Facebook and Twitter. I often ask people who message me, have you seen the videos? What are your views on it? Surprisingly, over the course of today, at least on 2 Facebook groups, I saw a couple of comments on our last stream. And some of them were from primarily Christians, and they were saying things like, okay, I like the systematic way the guys are going about this. I don't agree with them, generally speaking, but I'm very interested in what they have to say. And they were very happy to see that we were willing to let any Christian come on and articulate their view. We aren't like other channels who have to pre-select people. We don't pay anyone to come on. We're doing this honestly because we love Jesus, peace be upon him, and we want our Christian brothers and sisters to take this journey with us. I want to point out that we've done a lot of work over the last 3 weeks, specific to the Gospel of Matthew. And I want to point out that I've never seen Dr. Imran, Brother Nazam, or Hamza make a silly argument. You're all basing it on verses, the Christian study and interpretation of the subject. And so the kind of Christians that we want to come on are people that are familiar with the gospel. So if you've read it, you've studied it, you've looked at the church father sayings about it, if you have read the gospels in Greek and you've looked at some of the manuscript variants, you are the kind of person we want to come on. Yep. Do you guys agree, disagree? Let me know.
Yeah, we really do want some intelligence. I mean, we had Samuel Green on one of the streams, and that was really good. And apparently there's so many people in the comment sections. I could do this, I could respond to that. And then the link is there, but they just don't come on. So clearly they can't respond to it. So yeah, we don't take no joy in kicking puppies. All right, we don't want someone coming on here doesn't know what they're talking about, and we can make them look stupid, and then we claim victory. No, we want someone to actually challenge what we're saying. I mean, we heard there's an angry pastor somewhere in the world. We're still waiting for him to jump on.
Who cannot be named.
That's it. He who shall not be named. And it's like we want people. Come on, you Christians, man. We're Speaker's Corner. You know who we are. Where are you? Where'd you put the builders in that? Where are they? they're all right when they're attacking Islam, but why are they defending their faith?
You know, it's interesting. One of the people that often tries to respond to us, he uploaded a video with a thumbnail with him and me in a boxing ring. But this is the real boxing ring, this one, where it's live, it's 1-to-1, it's unedited. This is the time that you should be willing to jump into the ring.
Keyboard warrior, mate.
Yeah, I don't understand these guys. As in regards to the angry pastor, he can upload videos of him dancing, but he can't upload videos of him chatting with us. He went into a rural area to preach about the gospel, and the connection was better in that rural area than he could have gotten to come on the stream. I don't get it. Like, how long is it going to take Abbas to get down to Ghana and help him with his internet?
But I think you've really summed it up really well. So we're not really here to attack. What we've been saying from the beginning is that in response to Christians who say we have eyewitness testimony, we have historical evidence, we've really been challenging that basis. We haven't gone into the theology, where that will come later. What we've gone on to is the historical basis of the arguments being presented by Christians, the narrative of the life of Jesus. And what we found, actually, most people who've come on, the Christians that have come on, have ended up agreeing with us to some extent or another. They've said that it's not meant to be historical, things have been written from a theological perspective, a narrative is being painted, which is fine, and this is exactly what we're saying. So really, we want those Christians who do believe that this is historically accurate events being described, that we can rely on as historical evidence of what was going on, to come forward and challenge maybe some of the views that have been put forward. And we're sincere in the sense that we're not going to cut you off, we're not going to prevent you from making your argument. We want to hear what people have to say. So please do come and let's see what's going on.
Alhamdulillah. We have one person waiting already, and we did say, didn't we, that we were going to prioritize people that hadn't been on before. So you haven't been on before, this is your chance to skip the queue as well. But we do have one person. She has been on today on before, and she's my favorite. So there's
Is it Mary?
Is it my mate Mary?
It might be, but you know, she's
I'm just going to hide behind this EFDawah logo. Is that all right? Yeah, done.
Miss Mary, I haven't seen her since a few ones ago.
That one.
All right, here we go. Welcome, Mary. We missed you.
Yes, hi. Nice to be here. Nice to see you guys.
You got a haircut. You look good.
I hope all of you and your families have remained healthy in the crisis that countries have been having. But nonetheless, yeah, I'm here. I wanted to do a little bit of some cleanup detail with things that have been said. I'm focusing on several pieces that are actually scriptures that are, and stories that are actually both in Matthew as well as in Mark. And, but before I get into that, I wanted to thank Ijaz especially for something, because since, I don't know if you could see this, going the wrong way. I got a lot of sunlight coming in a window, but nonetheless.
Okay, I see, yeah.
Yeah, I went ahead and did a little bit of my own research on papyri, and focused only on the Gospel of Matthew. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 pages, 17 pages of papyri exist, which reflect the Gospel of Matthew. What I did is I actually printed out the texts. Now, most of the conversation, almost all of the conversation that's gone on here, to look at the papyri purely from perhaps more of an archaeological viewpoint, and I decided to take a look at it as for what it said. And what astounded me were 2 points. The first one was that instead of the scriptures that have been saved so far on papyri, and by the way, I did not go any farther than the late 400s on so I didn't count anything in the 500 and up. But what astounded me is the amount of material that is totally different, the amount of papyri we have that actually reflects quite large chunks of Matthew. But what made me laugh in particular is going to lead to my next point, And so I just wanted to thank you for that.
No worries.
Because this, the other thing I read, and I wish I remembered it better, is that we, ever since the 1900s, focusing primarily on the 1950s, is actually when trying to figure out how old the papyri were, and then, of course, what did they say, how to get them apart, how to read them, all that kind of stuff, is actually a 20th century miracle, if you want to call it a miracle. I find that to be extremely interesting because what that says is right now we are on the infancy stage of uncovering papyri, which already exists. It's sitting and waiting, and I guess in vaults somewhere. But nonetheless, there's a lot more to be discovered than we have right now. So I just wanted to make that as a
Mary. What's
Yes.
miraculous about it?
That it is around in the first place, because I also read about the burning of Christian scrolls during certain periods of Christian persecution and the amount that was burnt, and also about the doubt that there was about Masada. You probably know what Masada is and where it is, and the fact that for centuries it was thought to be a fable, a story. It didn't really exist. And one day somebody decided to look up, and guess what? There was Masada sitting there.
Mary, can I just ask you two questions? Sorry, just so because we're approaching this from the opposite end. Okay, so do you believe the author of Matthew was a disciple of Jesus?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and do you believe do you believe it's historical?
Yes, I do.
Right. So the things that we put forward to show why it's not historical, can you respond to any of that?
Yeah, I would like to do that right now.
Please do.
Fantastic.
Mary, can I just say the voice is quite muffled. I don't know if you're able to turn your mic down a little bit or not. If not, no problem. But some of the people can't hear you.
Yeah, hold on a second.
And just do 1 point at a time, Mary. Don't shotgun us, okay?
I want to shotgun you, Hamza.
If you know who Jimmy is, does my voice sound better?
It sounds good to me all the time. I don't know what the people in the comments are talking about.
You sound lovely, Mary. Continue.
But it's their computer and not mine. Okay. I had this picture at one point in time. Can you? Oh boy. Okay, there I go. Can you see
the boat from Galilee? Yep, I know it.
The boat from Galilee. So experts have actually reconstructed it. Now, when I look at this, I think of a canoe.
You're showing us a black boat.
When I look at this one, I think of a canoe that might fit 2 people, and all you see is a hull in the bottom. Well, I looked at the plans, and I also have the photo, but my ink ran out, so it's really weird looking. These
looks fine to me.
Actual plans for how that boat actually looked when it was functioning in Galilee, and it has since built the model based on the hull that was left.
Okay, Mary, the boat. You know the boat you're presenting. The boat you're presenting. Which of our arguments are you responding to?
The argument regarding the Jesus in the fishing boat, where you were the one who was saying that Jesus's head was on a pillow, and why didn't he wake up? You were jesting.
He was. Well, why would I just say that?
About Jesus still sleeping through a storm, and how could that have happened? You didn't think that was
me. Yes.
That was Ijaz. That was Ijaz.
Yes.
Oh, that was you. Okay, sorry. Yes. I apologize for that.
It's okay.
You guys look so much alike. Sorry about that.
Sorry. So just so we know what you're responding to, Ijaz, can you repeat the claim?
I don't look anything like him.
Ijaz, can you repeat the claim you made?
Yes.
About this boat, so we can see that Mary's responding to the actual claim you made.
So what was my claim? One, this boat is an example of what boats at that time could have looked like. It is not specifically the boat that Jesus was in. But
Right.
two, what the scholars have mentioned is that the height of it is not going to be large enough to accommodate a great deal of people. The third thing that they mention is that if Jesus was on this boat, a boat like this, and he was sleeping on it. Now, Mary, if you can hold up the image one more time for us, the reconstructed vision, I'll point out something to you. Okay, there we go. Mary, on that image, can you look at it and tell me where Jesus would have been sleeping on it?
Sure, in this front end, let me read you the dimensions, because your dimensions are off from what the rebuilders said. They said it could actually hold to 15 men. Now, this is based on the hull that I had shown you. This boat was reconstructed. It could hold 15 men. It was 26.5 feet long, 7.5 feet wide, and 4.5 feet high. Now, it doesn't say Jesus was sitting underneath this area. Assuming that perhaps it could have been there, but it could have been, I suppose, any place. All right. But my point is that the burnt or the eroded hull from the bottom of the sea turns out to be looking like this. So I'm saying that there's a very good possibility that Jesus, since of course he was God and is God,
Please.
sleeping and not worried about anything.
Okay,
So-
Mary,
so
please,
Mary-
please leave theology out of it if you don't mind.
No, that's fine. I think in the context that she's speaking, she didn't use it as an evidence. So Mary, just work with me, yeah? So there are two options. Either Jesus was sleeping at the in the bottom of the boat, or he was sleeping on top of something, yes? Now, I don't know about you, but the picture that you showed me will line up with what we call fishing pirogues in my area of the world. And I don't know if you've been in one, but if you're on a boat like that, and it's to the point that it's being tossed and turned and filled with water, there were either two things. One, you get tossed from the boat, and if you're sleeping, you're not gripping anything. Two, if you're at the bottom of it, it takes less than 3 inches of water to drown yourself. The word used in the Gospels reflect a boat that was almost filled with water. So it would be inconceivable that someone can sleep one and remain completely stationary on a boat like that in the middle of a storm. What would be your response to those 2 points, Mary?
My response would be that every time there are storms, tornadoes where we live, extremely bizarre things happen and people survive. We had a baby in a tornado that was thrown not too far from here for 45 feet from where that infant had been asleep. And guess what? It survived. And it had nothing more wrong with it than being wet, crying, needing something to eat, and upset with a couple of scratches on its face. So my point is that things do happen that we cannot explain.
But Mary, one of the points of this conversation, right, the whole reason that we're trying to have it is to take what seems reasonable and explain it, right? So you asked me, Ijaz, what is your claim? And I gave you my claim. And then your response seems to be, this is something, the circumstances of which we cannot normally explain. That does not refute my point necessarily.
What it does are the boats that you had in Trinidad. Are we talking about 26.5 feet by 7.5 feet by 4.5 feet high? It seems to me that a lot of the fishermen, fishing was a main occupation in that area, and fish was a huge part of the diet. So I would assume that there were people who got caught in storms and lived to tell about it. So
Mary, the people on that boat were concerned that they were all going to die. That's how severe it was. And those would be the fishermen. So if they're concerned and Jesus is there sleeping, it seems strange. Now, Mary, I'm not trying to be mean with what I'm about to say next. So please, I'm just trying to give an analogy, right? It's not like Jesus was like a magnet and the boat was metal, that he would just stay there while the rest of the boat, tosses and turns around him. right? And I can tell you from personal experience, if you're in a storm and you're in a fishing pirogue, you will get thrown from it, Mary, if you're not holding on with your dear life.
Let's move on from the boat. Let's move on from the boat. All right.
Let's move on from the boat. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing I would like to talk about.
Anyone else waiting, Jordan? Just so I know.
Could I just point out that the people in the comments, they are dying because they're asking us the question, in what world does Darren and I look alike? And
I've often mistaken them, Mary. I think you're right. I've often
there is a striking similarity, I think.
Especially in the hair.
Robert, you be quiet. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's this, isn't it? That's it.
That's it. That's it.
I could be him. I could be him. That's what threw you.
I want to make a very respectful suggestion to you. Have you ever heard of a comedian by the name of Gallagher?
No.
Okay, he's in the United States. You'll have to look him up. Gallagher always wore a hat, and I know that you always wear a white hat, a brimmed duckbill hat.
Duck hat.
It's called a duckbill hat.
You're a Yank. It's a baseball cap.
What Gallagher did is Gallagher never took that hat off, even for his performances.
I'm going to Google this right now because I want to see.
Until he did one time, all of the gorgeous hair that he had was attached to the hat.
Okay.
That's just something you might want to think about.
Oh my God. Yeah. John, you do not look like this. Let me just...
I don't wear a hat like that.
So hard of it.
You can't put that hair on.
I wear a baseball cap. I'm only got no hair because I shave it off. All right.
The next thing I want to talk.
Anyway, brings your next point.
That's Gallagher, is it?
That's Gallagher. I think he was the fellow that would put one melon on one end of the rope and another melon of some kind on the other and let him go. And they always hit in the middle. So you wore raincoats when you went to his performance. So.
Mary, you're going to get hooked. Carry on quickly.
I want to go.
I can see the hook coming.
The lineage. You should take that as a compliment. See, I'm just making.
Oh yeah, you're bald, mate. Wear a cap with hair attached.
I got to be honest.
Am I not the only woman who's been on this?
You are.
Yeah.
Jordan's got a soft spot for you, Mary.
Listen to me. I'm just a woman. I want to talk about the lineage of Joseph, the father of Jesus.
The lineage now. So what claim do you think we made and why is it wrong?
I'm not sure what claim you made.
Oh, right. So you're just going to refute our claim that you don't know we made. Well done, Mary.
It isn't like all of you together believe the same thing, if you get my drift. So when I talk about the lineage of Jesus being a problem, like Hamza would say, what is it about Joseph? Why is it even there?
Yeah. Why is that? Why are we giving the lineage of Joseph?
All right. Well, then let me give you that answer, and I think it'll answer the others.
Go on then.
Okay.
The comments are dying. Mary, you were hit with the audience.
They love her. They love her.
Good.
We should give her a spot, the resident Christian.
I'll be opening in London. All right. Would somebody like to read Matthew 13:55?
Yep, I would volunteer to do that.
Right ahead. It's one of the papyri that you guys have talked about, actually, but never read it.
Hey, Mary, just while he's doing that, what language do you believe the original Gospel of Matthew was written in? Oh, Mary's quiet.
No, I believe it was likely Greek, okay. And then transposed into Jewish, if there's evidence of that at all.
This is a good one. This is a good one.
Okay.
Mary, you've chosen the best verse, let me tell you. Mary, if I could marry you, I would.
But you can't. Well, she is a person in the book.
I've been married for almost 50 years, guys. If you make it to 50, you tell me.
Don't answer me about second wives.
He's the first for me.
What's that?
I'm 50 years now.
Alhamdulillah.
And it's been an excellent relationship. By the way, my husband did not come to Christ until he was 58 years old. I came to Christ when I was 35. And when he came to Christ, our relationship just, we are lovers.
Stop there. Stop there.
Well, Mary, I should be very Mary, I'll be very careful about letting him watch our streams, or that might end.
Okay, so read Matthew 13:55.
Okay, so I'll read it from the English I have in front of me. It says, isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother named Mary? And aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas?
Right. Okay, so who said that? Who is it that?
I read it out for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. But who is it that apparently was saying that? Was that Jesus talking about himself or one of the apostles? No. That was something that was being said about Jesus. That when they heard who he was and knew a little bit about his family, they knew that he was the son of a carpenter. Well, it's well known that in tradition that Joseph certainly was a carpenter. So Mary married a carpenter, and eventually, and his name was Joseph. So if people were thinking that Jesus was the son of a carpenter, then they would assume that he would have, of course, the same genealogy as his father.
Right.
Now let's look at the genealogy.
We don't need to.
Okay, then jump down to the name Jeconiah.
Right.
Yeah, the one with the curse. Yep, we know it.
Yep, and the curse. Do you guys all know about the curse?
Of course.
I know it was retracted at some point in the
Because
lineage.
there's an audience here, perhaps we should read it.
Yeah, perhaps for the
I'll go
benefit.
ahead
Yeah,
and do it so people understand.
sure. So, in a nutshell, the curse is basically the descendants of Jeconiah. They are cursed, and that no one will sit on the the Davidic chair
Yeah.
or be the Messiah, or who's from Jeconiah's offspring or descendants.
Right.
So both Matthew and Luke, they seem to indicate that Jesus, either directly or indirectly, is from a descendant of Jeconiah.
What would that have meant? Okay, so if Jesus, let's take a look at the, it says, thus says the Lord, write this man, Jeconiah, down childless, a man who will not prosper in his days, for no man of his descendants will prosper, sitting on the throne of David or ruling again in Judah. Now, if Jesus was related to Joseph physically, that means that Jesus could not be the Messiah. Correct?
Yep, that's right.
Well, sorry. I have to stop this. What does the lineage of Joseph have to do with Jesus? Who cares who's the lineage of Joseph? What's it got to do with Jesus?
Because it proves that Jesus was not of the lineage of Jeconiah, who was cursed.
But Jesus didn't have a father, so how could he have a lineage of anyone?
Absolutely.
So I don't understand the point you're making.
The point I'm making is that the readers of the Gospels were not just Jews, The readers of the Gospels were also the Gentiles. The readers of the Gospels were Romans and Greeks and people from other places who would have no idea what that was all about.
Mary,
But
Mary, I have to ask you again.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to keep you on point here.
One-
What is the point? What does the point of the lineage of Joseph demonstrate?
it demonstrates that Jesus, his lineage through Joseph,
He has no lineage through Joseph.
has it. That's right. That it has no lineage.
So Joseph isn't related to Jesus. So why are you telling us who Joseph is related to? There's no link.
To say that because of Jeconiah. It's important to point that out.
Hold on.
Please,
So
please.
Muslim, 500 years later, after the fact, we're not the only ones who are going to hear about Jesus.
Okay, Mary.
To think that this is focused on you guys, and it isn't. Sorry.
No.
One
The point I'm just saying is Jesus has no relation to Joseph. So telling me who Joseph is related to, it bears no relevance to Jesus' lineage. So I don't see the purpose of telling me who Joseph is related to. I don't get it. I don't see the point of it.
What is Nazam doing with his face?
When we're talking about whether or not Jesus had a human father
No,
and was actually biologically
no, he didn't.
right. But again, this gospel is for all people, including those who would have looked at Jesus and said what we just read in Matthew was that the reference is that that Jesus was the carpenter's son.
One second, Mary.
That implies a physical relationship.
Mary,
Just try and fill in what I'm missing, please. If you
So,
don't mind.
Mary, let me play Dr. Imran here and try to bridge the gap between Hamza and you. Okay.
Yeah.
So what you seem to be indicating is that, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to articulate your position again. Re-articulate it, sorry. That you're trying to say the people at that time would have expected Jesus, who as the Messiah should have a lineage, and that the gospel incorporates one to satisfy the needs of those people. Is that your argument?
Yes.
Okay, and what Darwin is trying to say is, well, that doesn't solve the problem of attributing Jesus's lineage to Joseph because he's not his actual son. So the initial reason for doing it does not give it a credible purpose for it, if that makes sense. It's a lot like, Mary, if you came to me and you said, Ijaz, I want to buy your car, and I say to you, okay, I'm going to print out the car history, but it's not the history of the car I'm giving you. You get what I mean, Mary? Yeah?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have another
I think the doctor's dying to say something. Say something.
I just wanted to clarify something, just so that maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. Does the lineage that we have in Matthew suggest that Jeconiah is in the lineage of Joseph?
No, he was thrown out because of the curse.
So is Jeconiah in the lineage of Joseph or not? He's not. Okay.
He should have been. His name is there, but God cursed him and his descendants. As it turns out historically, there was never any further son or relative of Jeconiah to sit on the throne.
So the question I'm asking, Mary, was what is in the genealogy that we have for Matthew, is Jeconiah mentioned? And someone can just read that and check, really.
Yeah, it's mentioned, yeah.
Okay.
So, Matthew chapter 1, verse 11.
So verse 11. So the question then is, how is the person who's writing the genealogy trying to prove that Jesus is not descended from Jeconiah if he's actually putting in Jesus at the bottom of the genealogy that contains Jeconiah?
Because it would have to be.
Is my question clear? Is it? So what I'm asking is, so Jesus is at the bottom of the genealogy. We have Jesus, and then it goes to Joseph, and then we have Joseph's genealogy going up. In that genealogy is Jeconiah. Now, if this shows that the person who descends from Jeconiah can't be from the Davidic sit on a Davidic throne, then how is that demonstrating that Jesus can sit on a Davidic throne? I don't understand, because it seems to be a contradictory point.
Wait, say, the last part confused me. That you just
let me explain.
makes sense.
So what I've understood from you is that the reason that Jeconiah, the reason that the genealogy was there was to show that Jesus is not from the genealogy of or descended from Jeconiah. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yeah, on Joseph's side, yeah.
Okay. But what we have when we look at the text is we have a genealogy that contains Jeconiah and Joseph, and then Jesus as well in that same genealogy.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that prove? How would that prove to anybody who's reading it that Jesus isn't from that genealogy?
Probably for a lot of people, they would pay it no attention. But there are those of us who are somewhat more intellectual and want to research things like that, and they ask those questions. It depends on who is reading it.
So if the intellectual Christian is reading this, they would assume that this is not Jesus's. They would assume that this is not Jesus's genealogy.
Yeah, they would know that if they went ahead and just looked at the Tanakh, just read the Tanakh.
This is what we actually agree then, Mary, because we also believe that this is not the genealogy of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. But my point is, why is it there? And my point to Hamza is because it is for all time and all people. End of that discussion, huh?
All right. Mary, we've got a couple of people waiting, and we did say new people will come on. But you can feel free to jump back on. Oh, wait, Ijaz got something to finish off.
Yeah, Mary.
Finish her.
So, no, of course not. This is not Mortal Kombat. The only thing I want to do with Mary is have a nice meal. Sit down and have, I don't know if you like spaghetti and meatballs, Mary, but that's what I love. Right. So, Mary, one of the things I noticed in Matthew chapter 13, verse 55, is that it says, "Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? And are not his brothers James and Joseph?" Right? I'll just list those two names for you. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm just gonna put my middle finger here. Let me see. Give me one sec, guys. I can hear Hamza saying, "What the?" There we go. I don't know if you guys can see that there. Are you able?
I can't see it.
Okay, there we go. So it just focused, right? What it says here is that there's actually a variant of Jesus's brother's name. It's either Joseph, which is in the later manuscripts, beginning with the 4th century, Codex Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, but there is another name for his brother, which is called Joses. Have you heard his name Joses before?
Would you spell it according to what it would look like in English?
Joses. That's in the King James version.
It's what again? Say that.
Joses. That's in the King James version. If you read that.
Okay. No.
Now, obviously, he didn't have like random names, right? So, is it possible that the earlier manuscript preserves the actual name, or is it that the later manuscript altered the name to make it understandable for people who may not be familiar with Galilean Judaism?
Tell me why they would even do that.
Well, I'm just offering theories for it because it seems almost as if the very earliest manuscript with the name is different, and considerably so from a later one. I don't imagine that anyone would, because in the Greek, to get the name Joseph, at the end of the letter, you got to have something like a phi. It's like a circle with a line through it. Mm-hmm. Or on the other hand, if it's Joses, it's like the letter C with a small tail at the end. So there's two whole different shapes altogether. So I don't think that this would have come about as a random mistake. It seems like an intentional change to me. And the earliest one in that list of papyri that you had in front of you, tell me if you see P103. Is it there? On that list that you had.
To go on my computer. I don't have the
one that you had printed out. You had a page with a bunch of numbers on it. Do you remember?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Hang on.
It would be like calling Jordan like Robert or calling Hamza Gallagher. It's like a jump from one to the other, you know?
I like the Gallagher analogy. I'm going to use that one.
Yeah, I'm actually going to suggest that we rename Hamza to Gallagher for the rest of the streams.
You said it's 103?
Yep, P103.
Well, yeah, but you see what I did. This is just simply the English.
I understand.
Just simply the ESV. I didn't copy. Yeah.
Okay,
If I
so
had done that, this would be a lot longer. Okay.
Maybe that's something for Mary to fish about for next time or for later on. Let's move on.
We have a couple of other things, but
No, come later, Mary. No problem. Just stick around. But we've got to give someone else a chance as well.
See you later, Mary.
And have a lovely Father's Day. I don't know if you celebrate. If you're a dad, happy Father's Day. If you're not, may you one day be one.
I mean, thank you.
Thank you very
much. Bye-bye, Mary.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you, Mary. Thank you.
You're still our favorite, Mary. Still our favorite.
You are. Let me mention something, brothers. You need to help me fulfill Mary's wish by helping me find a wife.
Sure.
It sounded like she was offering to be a second, but
she's already married. You can't do that.
I see.
When she called Hamza Gallagher and I saw the picture, I'm like,
that's brilliant.
Like Nazam looks more like Gallagher because of the long hair.
Yeah.
Like Hamza is the anti-Gallagher. No offense, Hamza.
Who's next?
I think it's important though to say that Mary did her research. And we have to give her credit for that. She went away. She looked at all of the and she tried to look at the argument and bring things that she thought would help to show the argument was weak. Yeah. And respect to her for that. So this is what we really want to see, people engaging with the discussion.
Yeah, most definitely so.
I appreciate that. She actually took her time. Right?
But Christians need to come on, right, and say, look, you said that, and after I've done some research, I think you're wrong, and here's why. Not come on and come in a vacuum. You know, at least try to respond to what we've said. That's why Mary said, she said about lineage, and we said, okay, what did we say about lineage you want to refute? And she goes, I don't know. What did you say about lineage? You know what I mean? It's like, anyway.
I'm not
I remember. Sorry, Joe.
Go on.
I remember the verse from last week that Brother Ijaz quoted, Titus chapter 3, verse 9, not to argue or quarrel about lineages. So,
yeah.
Hey, let's not spend too much time then.
I just don't see the point.
There's a comment that you should highlight on the screen. It just passed me. It's by Revert Sister, and she's shocked that Brother Ijaz is not married. Those are the kind of comments, Jordan, I need you to highlight, my friends, okay?
Where is that? Where is that?
It just passed. You had one job, Jordan. Help me get that.
We'll keep up there for a little bit.
Subhanallah.
All right, so we have our next gentleman on. So Frank's been waiting patiently as well. You'll be next. Should we limit the time for because we've got 3 people waiting?
10 to 15 minutes. It depends on the quality of argument. If it's like shallow stuff, goes quickly. If it's more in depth, more involved, and it relates to what we do, we extend it.
And Mary's still there having a coffee as well. I see you, Mary. All right. So is Mudash, I believe.
Wait, this guy's Muslim. I saw him on the EFDawah stream from yesterday. Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Islam.
Okay, well, let's bring Frank on because Frank's been waiting patiently.
Well, that sounds a bit more non-Muslim.
Yeah, I think Frank. Welcome, Frank.
Hi, Frank. How are you doing?
Hi, Frank.
G'day, guys. I've got a question for you.
Nice to meet you.
Do you believe that Mary was a virgin when Jesus was born?
Yes, because that's what the Quran says. Definitely.
You believe it on the basis of what the Quran says?
Yes.
Yeah.
How did Matthew know?
But I think he had a mistranslation based on the Greek Septuagint. Is this the Alma versus Virgin debate, I think, that variant that you want to raise today for us?
No, but he tells a story that Mary was a virgin when she conceived Jesus. That's the story that's there. How did he know that?
I don't think he did know that because in his same gospel, he continues by saying that he had 4 other brothers. Are you of the belief that Mary was perpetually a virgin?
Of course not. It says he had brothers. So, of course, it just says that Joseph didn't know her till after Jesus was born.
Frank, sorry. You come in a vacuum here, mate. Have you been watching the streams?
I was introduced to it a week ago. Okay, so I saw one. I've only seen a bit.
That's fine.
What I'm asking is.
No. But here's the thing. You see, you're not here to ask us questions as such, right? You're here to come and challenge something we've said. That's the whole point. Not ask what we believe.
What I'm challenging is you're saying Matthew wasn't there. He's not historical.
No. You're misunderstanding it again. No, we're not saying that either. We're saying, is the author of Matthew the disciple? And we've had some Christians come on saying yes, he is, and some Christians saying no, he's not. We then ask the question: is the Gospel of Matthew an historical book? And we have some Christians say yes, well, majority say no. To be honest with you, all right. And then what we've done is we've looked at reasons why we don't believe it's historical, and why we believe there's doubt in the authorship. Okay, what you're supposed to do is come on. Here's something we've said, and challenge that. That's the whole point.
I'm challenging everything you've said. You're saying
no. But Frank.
You're just trashing it as being totally non-historical.
Frank.
And yet you're acknowledging that some of it's true.
Just come with one point, and we'll deal with
Here's my point
at a time.
This is my point.
Go on.
Matthew tells a story of Mary being a virgin,
right,
when she gives birth to Jesus,
right.
And you're
so what
saying
do you think that proves? What do you think that
you're
proves?
saying you agree that that's true.
No, but what do you believe? What do you think that proves?
Well, I'm saying he's reporting something as being historical,
right?
And you agree it's true, but you're saying the way he says it is not right.
No. Look. Like I said to you, we're questioning whether or not. Do you believe? Okay, make it easy for you. Do you believe the author of Matthew was Matthew the disciple?
Don't know for sure, but probably. Because there were 12 disciples.
It's very important. It's very important.
No, but when you talk about disciples, like there were 12
one of the 12.
specific, but there were a lot more.
Okay.
There were a lot more. There were the 70 that Jesus sent out at one stage, right?
Okay, fine.
And there were many. So
do you believe he's Matthew the tax collector?
Matthew can be a disciple without being one of the 12. But from what he says, the stories he tells, it looks like he's pretty close.
No, do you believe he's one of the 12 or not? Because a lot of Christians say he is, other Christians say he's not. Do you believe he is or not?
I think he most probably was, but it's not absolutely sure.
So you believe then when he...
But even if he wasn't, he's so close. He's been there listening. Like you take the Sermon on the Mount and those stories. The way he relates that, he was obviously there. He's heard Jesus' words.
Why was he there?
Where did you get those words from?
From hearsay, from somebody else who was there. Maybe.
From hearsay?
Maybe. Yeah.
From somebody else. So you're making up these other people. I think if you read Matthew 7, it's so profound. And you're saying, it's the...
No. Have you seen how we've challenged the Gospel of Matthew historically? Have you seen what we challenged?
I've seen some of what you're doing, and I can see that you are walking in the council of the unbelievers. Like all these things you're putting forward, it's stuff that you've got from unbelievers. You haven't got this from studying the Quran. You've got this from listening to unbelievers.
What are you talking about?
Are you familiar with Psalm 1? It starts off. It starts off. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of scoffers.
Frank, relax, mate.
And you're sitting in the seat of scoffers.
No. We're not scoffing. Oh. We're in a neutral position here.
Yeah, you're scoffing.
Why was scoffing?
You are clearly identified.
Can I just make a point?
Go on, Imran.
I can just make a point. So, Frank, you've become a little bit. Forgive me. You've become a little bit emotional, and let me just try and explain a little bit about what we're trying to do.
I'm extremely emotional.
Yeah. So it's evident.
Because you
Frank,
are scoffing. You are scoffers, and you don't have a basis for that in the Quran. The Quran actually respects the gospel, but you're just trashing it.
Frank, this is the thing. So let me try and explain a little bit about what's going on, and then maybe you'll understand sort of what's happening here, because it may seem like scoffing to you, and I agree that it's actually probably quite hard for Christians to hear the things that we're saying, because we're challenging some of the things they believe. So when Christians come to Muslims, they say a few things to us when they're interacting. We have eyewitness testimony. This is historical information that we get from the people who were with Jesus at the time. And those are two things that are repeated probably ad nauseum, respectfully, to Muslims all the time. So what we're doing is we're looking at this claim specifically from a non-theological historical perspective. So we're not looking at the theology of it, but we're looking at the history of it. And what we've done is to look at the different. So we did a stream on Mark. We went through the historicity of that. And now we're doing the historicity specifically of Matthew itself. Now, the point that and I know it's not easy to hear that we're challenging some of the things that you believe in. that's fine, but we're not trying to do it in a way that's sort of belligerent or in a way that's sort of trying to put you down. We're doing it.
I saw you guys attacking that. I think he's Canadian Christian a few weeks ago. You just ripped him apart. There's 5 of you against one guy. You are extremely belligerent. There's no way you can deny that. You are sitting in the seat of scoffers.
Okay, so let me try and.
I admit.
So let me just try and make a point. So I'm going to try and go past your emotion and just deal with the point that you raised, Frank. So the point that you've raised is that you said that because Mark writes something about Mary being a virgin that you've claimed that's there, that we accept that this is true from our own sources. Therefore, we have to accept that that is true from Matthew. Now, there's a few problems with this. So if I were to write down something, if I were to write down a text, and in that text it said the Virgin Mary, that statement, that me writing that down and it containing something that could be true does not make that text in itself historical. Is that I don't know if that's clear what I'm saying?
But like compared to Mary being a virgin, things like going to Egypt and so on, I mean, they're just regular things. I mean, there's no reason for that to be untrue. To claim that Mary's a virgin, that's a pretty extraordinary claim.
Well, what do you mean that's regular thing to go to Egypt? Why is that a regular thing to do? Why is going to Egypt with a newborn baby a regular thing to do? Walking.
What I mean is there's nothing extraordinary about it. That's quite possible. Whereas for a woman, for a virgin to conceive and give birth, I mean, that's a miracle, isn't it? Oh, you agree with that?
We have no issues with miracles, but we're not talking theology here, we're talking history.
No, but so Matthew's reporting, this is what happened. You agree that's true.
Yeah, but then he uses Old Testament.
So he reports a miracle, you believe that, but everything else is just kind of ordinary.
So Frank, if I were to, the point that I was making, Frank, is if I was to write down today that something and include the statement, the Virgin Mary, the Virgin, gave birth to Jesus, would that put me in historical closeness to Jesus, peace be upon him, of his time? Would I be reporting eyewitness testimony, or could I have taken that from other sources of information?
But what other sources of information?
So this is the point. So let me give you 3 examples. So we know that the person that's the name is attributed to Matthew wasn't on any of the earliest manuscripts that we have. They were untitled. They come without a name. The name was retrospectively attributed to the work. So that's, I mean, even Christian scholars will accept this. So this is not a controversial point. The second point is there is a disagreement. There is a problem with the way that the name is applied, because there are some people in history, like Papias, for example, who says that the gospel that had this name attached to it was written in Hebrew, and all the gospel and the writings that we have are all written in Greek. So which text are we referring to? So what we're trying to get to is what we have now and the earliest manuscripts that we have. Can we say that they've come from that same person that they're attributed to? The third thing, the person quotes from the Septuagint. The quotes that he makes of the Old Testament are from the Septuagint, which is written for non-Hebrew speaking people in the diaspora, the Jews of the diaspora. For a person, and he quotes them verbatim, which is why we know that he's quoting from the Septuagint. So if there was an individual who knew the Hebrew anyway, which we would have assumed if he would have written a gospel in Hebrew to start with, that they would know that, why they would be quoting or translating from another text when they could have translated directly for themselves. Other things. So we've spoken already about the issue with Herod killing the babies. There's no historical recording of this event ever happened. There's even a book that was written specifically about.
There's no reason for it to be false. Like, so you just put forward a theory.
I'm explaining
the theory. This doesn't happen.
I'm not.
Here's Matthew, who's near the time.
Frank, hear me out, Frank. I'm
muted you just to let Imran finish his point, and then promise you.
You can unmute, Frank. So the point about so you said great. So there's no reason why this shouldn't have happened, but actually we have a book that's written specifically about the atrocities of Herod by Josephus that should have contained the atrocities that he did, and it doesn't contain that specific atrocity. So there are evidence that says that this is probably not true.
Sorry, there's a book called The Atrocities of Herod by Josephus.
Yeah.
It's called The Atrocities of Herod.
That does not record.
No. It's a book writing about the atrocities Herod committed.
Yeah. And it's not, and it does
Were you
not
aware
contain,
of that?
It does not contain.
No, I know the annals of the Jews or whatever. I've heard of it. I don't know much about it, but I know that he wrote about the Jews.
Yeah, but you
So-
want to be. Yeah, go on, sorry, man.
So what we're trying to show to you is that there is reason to believe that some of the information contained within is not historical. There are other things as well we've mentioned that you may not have heard of. We talked about the rising of the zombies. Sorry, not the zombies. The many saints who rose and were seen by many. There's no recording of this ever happening, particularly no recording of this by the other gospel writers. So there are lots of things that bring us to the conclusion that the person who was writing this was writing much later than it would have been at the time, and it's not historical. Now, some Christians have come and like R.C. Christian, who sort of said that this was a theological writing, it's a narrative, and I understand why for a Christian like yourself that would have been problematic. We tried to be fair with him. I don't think we were horrible to him in any way. But he did definitely, his arguments did fall apart when they were examined, and that's probably what you're referring to. So what we're looking at is a historical basis for not the theology behind your religion. What if you believe theologically that this is the book from Matthew? That's fine, but we're looking at the historicity of this. Sorry, George's finger up there, brother. Sir.
So thank you for your point, Dr. Imran. And Frank, let me be honest. You seem like a very a person who is passionate about what he believes in, and I applaud you all the more for that. Everyone should be passionate about the things that they believe in, which is why I wear Chelsea t-shirts every week. Now, I can see that Jordan's eyes glazed over just now again. So, Frank, you asked the question a number of times. You repeated the same question. The question was, why would someone make this up? What would be the motivating reason, right? Did I get your question correct, Frank?
No. Really, my question is, how did he know Mary was a virgin when she gave birth to Jesus? Like he gives this whole narrative about Jesus. He includes that. Mm-hmm. I say that's because he was near to the action. And you're standing 2,000 years later, and you're standing 2,000 years later. You're denying all what he's reporting, but yet you believe that Mary is a virgin, which is a pretty extraordinary thing, based on something written 600 years later.
Oh, no,
so,
don't go
Frank,
there.
would you agree with me that God is able to reveal information at any time that he wants, right? So it doesn't matter if the Quran is 600 years later. If you believe in an all-knowing God, he can reveal to you a truth right now that perhaps it is, I am right? So God is not limited by time. But I want to point out, I like the question that you asked because it's going to allow me to answer it. You asked, the only way that someone would know that information is if they were close to the action. But how do we know that's not the case? Because it's not going to be something difficult for people to hear that he was the Messiah and to hear that he had a miraculous birth, right? It's not like that will be secret information. This was a public claim about a very famous family, is what Mary had said in the previous caller. So if this is a popular family and this is well known, it's not in the realm of impossibility that they knew that she had a miraculous birth. And so it does not mean that Matthew had to be close to the action. It could just mean that he heard some of this information. But
you're making something up there. You're saying it's not beyond the bounds of possibility, and we're talking about a miracle, whereas something like Herod killing the babies, which, that sounds quite plausible, you're saying, well, there's no other record of it, therefore it didn't happen.
I'm not denying the virgin birth. Let's be clear here. I believe in it as a matter of faith, right? Yeah. But when it comes to historicity of something, that's a bit more difficult to prove. So that's why we delineate, or we look at the claims individually. So I remove for example, I can't go back and test Mary to know that she had a baby or not. I'm not going to find her DNA. I'm not going to find her medical records, right? So I'm not making that claim. Rather, the claim that we are making is that, the claim that we have received from you is that Matthew had to be close to the action. And the way that you qualify that claim is by saying, how else would he have come across this information? We are saying in response, you don't need to be close to someone to know this information if the family is already popular in the first place. Yeah.
But see, like with Herod killing the babies,
let me deal with this, Ijaz.
Why isn't it like it's not written down, but it was commonly known?
No. Well, here's the thing about King Herod killing the babies. Yeah, do you believe King Herod killed the babies?
Yeah, Matthew records it. He was close to the action, so I believe him.
All right. Why do you believe him?
Because the whole gospel hangs together. It's a credible record.
No. Let's stay on to King Herod. Why do you believe King Herod killed these babies?
Because Matthew records it.
So that's it, just because Matthew says so.
Yeah, and what? There's so many things in history that we've just got one person's record for it.
Right, and then when they flee to Egypt, and then Matthew uses a prophecy to bring Jesus from Egypt, do you accept that Matthew took prophecy out of context to imply something?
Why is it out of context?
Well, the prophecy in Hosea has got nothing to do with the Son of God.
The fact that it applies to Jesus shows it does. It is in the context of the Son of God.
No, it's not, though. It's got nothing to do with the Son of God. It's got to do with the children of Israel. It's got nothing to do with... If you read Hosea, it's talking about the children of Israel. It's not talking about the Son of God. Whereas Matthew uses that particular first part of the verse to have Jesus returning from Egypt, saying, as it says, as the prophet said, I shall call my son from Egypt. I mean, this is a complete butchery of the prophecy. It's got nothing to do with what the prophecy actually says.
Well, when you go to the end of the Gospels, then you have Jesus butchering the prophets when he applies these things to himself.
No, you've gone too far. Anyway, so the point here is this. The point here is this.
Focus.
Frank, the point here is this. Matthew is making this historical claim of a census that Herod killed the babies, yeah? And
hang on, stop.
Go on.
You know what a census is?
Yeah.
You know what the census was?
Yeah. I'm talking about killing of the babies, 2 years and below.
No, you got it wrong. It's the census. If you read in Luke, the census, census is counting the people, right?
Frank, don't jump on the word census. All right, maybe I used the word incorrectly. Let's stay on point here. Do you believe King Herod...
stay on point. You keep talking about the census. The census is in Luke.
Do you believe King Herod killed babies?
The people recorded so they can pay tax.
Frank, you said you believe that King Herod killing the babies aged from 0 to 2 in Bethlehem and all the surrounding villages is a historical fact. That's what you believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Based on Matthew's testimony.
Yeah, yes.
Right. Yet nowhere in history do we hear of this atrocity, yeah? And then the reason we're questioning it, because we bring up Josephus, as Dr. Imran said, who was specifically writing of the atrocities of King Herod. Yet he never mentioned this atrocity. Why not?
But that's an argument from silence.
No, it's not.
I was going to
actually, this is something.
How can that be an argument of silence? Yeah. He's writing about the atrocities of King Herod, killing all the babies. Do you believe killing babies from the age of 0 to 2 in Bethlehem and all the surrounding villages is an atrocious thing to do?
Of course it is.
Right. So do you not think if someone's writing a book about a king who did atrocious things would record that?
He might not even have known about it.
He didn't know about it. He's writing about King Herod.
No, because remember, Josephus wasn't alive right then. He's relying on the sources.
So were the people not talking about this butchery?
Hold on 1 second.
He's relying on the sources that he had.
Frank, do you understand the problem that you've just introduced? So if Matthew was close to the Jesus family and they were telling him about the infancy narrative, how Jesus was born and the circumstances he was born under, then clearly they would have told him about the Herod butchering the babies. And since this was written at a time when Josephus would have been writing as well, he would have had access to the same information. So it seems strange that the direct information he should have mentioned, he didn't mention. Do you realize that?
No, but where was Josephus getting his information? I'd say he wasn't talking to the Christians. He's in a different community.
He doesn't have to speak to Christians. No one was a Christian at the time.
Sorry?
Nobody was a Christian.
Josephus was born around Josephus was born around the time Christ was crucified.
Nobody was a Christian at the time King Herod was killing the babies.
That's right, yeah.
So you wouldn't go for Christians for eyewitness report, would you? Because there's no Christians.
Hang on, you're not making sense. Josephus was born around 30 AD, right?
Right.
When did he write his Annals of the Jews and all that?
Whenever he did. Where's he going to get his information from about history?
He's going to get it from from the people he knows in Jewish circles.
Right, so he's getting all his information, right, which is fine. So he's speaking to his Jewish sources about King Herod and all the horrible things he did, yet his Jewish sources were not aware of King Herod ordering the killing of babies 0 to 2 in Bethlehem and all the surrounding villages, according to you.
And we're all just talking about silence. We're an argument of silence.
No,
we don't know.
You're the one who said. You're the one who said. You're the one who said Josephus. You just agreed with me that Josephus, to get his information on King Herod, would need to speak to his Jewish sources, And what you're trying to get us to accept is that even though his Jewish sources told him all the horrible things King Herod did, they left out one of the most horrible things he did. Okay. I think that's reasonable to reject.
What you're putting forward
on the say-so of a man called Matthew.
Is this what you presume?
No, but here's the thing.
You presume.
Here's the problem, Frank, you got. You see, I'm bringing a historian who is specifically writing about a man and didn't record the most atrocious thing he did, and you're relying on a man, you don't know who he was, whether he was there, whether his information was accurate, but you're just using your theology to say it was. That's the problem. But this is a historical claim with testing.
Yes, I'm saying that, but based on the whole of the gospel, Matthew is not just sincere, a truthful person. He's bringing the gospel of Christ. So I believe him.
I believe Matthew's a liar, and I believe he's a manipulator.
Well,
and I believe he's
actually,
that's what I believe.
Yeah, well, you just stepped over the line.
Did I?
You've stepped over the line. You've really stepped over the line. I'll read you something from Matthew.
Why?
This is Matthew 7. It says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way as you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it'll be measured to you."
Fantastic.
Why do you look at the spec?
Frank, I don't accept the Gospels as a reliable source of information. So you might as well be reading from the Hindu scriptures as if it's going to have an effect on me. All right?
Well, then you don't agree with Muhammad either.
I'm sorry?
Because the Quran repeatedly confirms what went before. It speaks favourably about the gospel. It says nothing negative about the Gospels.
Yeah, but we don't believe the Gospel is referring to as your New Testament.
Well, I think that's just sophistry. It talks about
Listen, you've gone all the way off the point now. I'm just underline my point, Doctor, and then you can come in. So just go back to what I was saying is I'm relying on a historian who's taken from his Jewish sources of all the horrible things King Herod did, and he did some horrible things, and Josephus is writing about them, yet his Jewish sources negated to tell him about the most horrible thing he did. And that's my reason to accepting this thing didn't happen. And also to see that in the same story, Old Testament prophecy is manipulated to try and imply a false prophecy. Tells me there's an agenda behind this whole fabrication of history. Right? Your response is Matthew wrote it, so it must be history. Yet you yourself accept you don't know who Matthew was, whether he was there, or whether his information was accurate. I'm
saying what he writes shows he was there, and you've gone over the line by calling him a liar.
I believe he was.
You are going to be judged for that. You are going to be judged. I'm telling you.
He was a liar, though. What do you mean? Why am I going to be judged? You're going to quote Matthew for me judging Matthew? Is that what it is? Frank, relax. Imran, please.
So I just really want to say thank you, Frank, for coming on and having the conversation. Really, what we're trying to do is not make a theological argument, and I think you're coming from a theological perspective.
Well, I think you can't separate the two. You can't separate the two.
I appreciate that.
But we are doing that. That's our point.
The only thing I would say is that you made the only point that you made. I think that's important. Sorry, not important. That was something that needs to be sort of thought about. Is the idea that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. I think that's what you were trying to go down that route. Now, this is not always true. And when is it not true is when you expect to find the evidence. And that would be in a book written about atrocities of an individual. You'd expect to find the atrocity that he's committed in there because it's specifically talking about the topic. So that then becomes a strong evidence that the claimed atrocity is not historical, and that's really what the point that we're making. But we wish you all the best. I know you're in Australia, so thank you for coming on. And feel free to come on again because we'll be doing other streams, and we'll love to talk to you again.
We're on the Gospel of Luke next.
Cheers, Frank.
Nazam, you wanted to say something?
But I do warn you, you're associating with a guy that's calling the gospel writer a liar, and I think that's terrible.
No, I believe he is.
You'll be judged for that.
Did you want to say point before Frank goes?
Go on, Nazam.
No, Frank, I just wish you all the best. Sorry, we offended you and wasn't our intention. And you know, our purpose for doing this stream is like we are called EFDawah, and there's the Dawah in the name, so it's important that we do not forget that. You know, we should like in the same way as like how we want someone to speak to us, we should try to remember that, you know, there's people out there who hold this to be sacred and holy scripture, and try to be sensitive, like towards their feelings, so even if we don't agree with them completely. But I apologize, Frank, if you were offended, which you obviously were. So sorry.
So I was going to say that I like what I've seen so far today. We've crossed about the hour mark a few minutes ago, and we've had two Christians come on, and there's a common trend here, which is they believe it because the book says it, and that unfortunately at least one of the individuals said that by asking these questions, we're going to be judged for it. Now, just to be clear, we want to be judged by our actions. And what we're doing is nothing strange. The gospel should stand as a testimony. And for us to accept the gospel, we first must judge it, we must assess it, make up our minds about it, and then come to believe in it. So for us as Muslims, we are not trying to offend by judging, but what we have seen leads us away from accepting it as the truth. So it's a principled position. Maybe we may not have articulated ourselves in that way all of the time. And I understand Frank's emotion. I get it. And I commend him for being passionate about what he believes in, right? But at some point, the question has to go beyond just because Matthew says it, you must believe it. It must go to the second point, which is, right, if Matthew did say it, can I demonstrate that he did say it in this way? What was his purpose? What was his intention? But when you do literary criticism, I'm sure you guys have been to primary and secondary school. They teach you, ask questions as you go along in the narrative. And that's what we were doing. We read, just so that the people know our process, we ask that everyone who comes on the stream as a panelist from the Muslim side, that they at least read the gospel before we even begin the stream. And we want them to learn from it so that when we come on, we're not just arguing in a vacuum or like taken from a list. Like, for example, Frank said that we're getting the information from unbelievers, right? And the information I have here is from the NET Bible, which is a Christian Bible. Let me just read something here. It says in for the genealogy given about Joseph, it mentions one particular point. It says, before the mention of Jeconiah, several medieval manuscripts add Jehoiakim. Damn, that's a really difficult word to say. In conformity with the genealogy in 1 Chronicles chapter 3, verses 15 to 16. But this alters the count of 14 generations mentioned by the author of Matthew. In verse 17, it is evident that the author is selective in his genealogy for a theological purpose. So Frank had asked the question, why would the author of Matthew say X or Y or Z? Because he's trying to qualify a theological point. Now, I am not saying it. I'm not reading from an unbeliever. It's from the New English Translation. I have it in print in my hands. So I think it would be a bit unfair to say that we're going to the skeptical scholars or that we're going to mythicists. So people who have a principled position against the Bible, we're going to their sources and their books. Jordan, do we have a?
Can I just say something in not my defense, but just explaining my actions, because I see Nazam took offense to it. Look, we've done 3 streams on Matthew, right? And I've concluded the author of Matthew's a liar. Yeah, that's my belief. It's not. I'm not telling him you have to believe he's a liar. I'm saying I believe he's a liar. Now, if I believe he's a liar, quoting him saying something else is irrelevant, to be honest with you. Do you get me? Well, because we're talking specifically about a specific historical point which we're trying to stay on. Now, unfortunately, sometimes delusion has to be exposed, and that's the reality. And sometimes truth is a bitter pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, we're not out to intentionally offend, but he was very emotional and very aggressive. And so,
yeah, I mean, religion is something that people hold close to their heart.
Right. I get that. I get that. But we're not doing a theological discussion here. We're doing a historical checks. And to ignore things and then start to theologically quote verses as if it's a nonsense. That's it. So, I apologize. I didn't mean to offend, but like I said, truth is a bitter pill to swallow sometimes. That's it.
I think I'm going to buy a T-shirt for Hamza that says, "My facts don't care about your feelings." I think you would actually wear it.
So hard, yeah.
But Hamza, when are you going to rename yourself to Gallagher and Jordan you to Robert? Because I think at this point you guys have taken on different identities. You know,
Who's Jordan?
Jordan was Robert.
Yeah, Robert M. I am.
Who have we got next?
We've got, but to be fair, Ijaz, apparently you and Hamza look alike. So if Hamza looks like Gallagher, I think unfortunately the same goes to you.
I just shot myself in my own foot.
Listen, Jordan, do I need to go to my phone and find a picture? Do you need to go find a picture of Russell?
Oh no, hang on a minute.
Do we need to do that?
Let's change the subject.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Could I just highlight that Brother Farid from Farid Response put out a video earlier today with him and I looking at the Gospel of Mark, and the thumbnail he used. I'm going to find you, Brother Farid, and there'll be consequences for this one. So there's Farid in the corner, and he put me with the guy, the Christian guy, hugging me. That image that he edited was originally Hashem. So people have been commenting, Ijaz, why do you have Hashem's hand around your shoulder if it's the Christian guy with you? Because Farid edited it. Where's Farid? I'm going to find him.
You're getting a good deal. You're getting a good deal in the thumbnails. You was Mike Tyson in the last one, and this one you'll be being hugged.
I don't know what's going on anymore. I've given up at this point.
If we have very quick time, I'll just quickly say, like, also with the story of Matthew's gospel about the killing of the baby, it's also in relation to Luke, because it seems to be in conflict with Luke's account, because Luke says that after Jesus is born, the family returns back to Nazareth.
Nazam, save it for the Luke stream.
He's giving it away. Nazam, you gotta wait, my friend.
Inshallah.
I could easily have put that on Frank. I could easily have brought that out on Frank, but I want Frank to have a surprise.
Okay, inshallah.
Okay, do we have a third runner-up?
We do, but so here's your choice. We have someone called David Wood who's not showing their picture, so it's probably not David Wood, but we have that. Or we have Mary.
Let's see what David Wood's all about.
It's got to be David Wood, hasn't it? So
maybe it's a fan.
Yeah, it must be. He must be a fan.
Welcome, David Wood.
He's muted.
All right, David.
All right.
David Wood.
That was actually the real David Wood. So,
and I think that's the best argument that he's put forward in a long time.
Most credible thing he said in a long time as well.
So that's over. So we only have Mary, who's got a lot of papers she's doing at the moment. So if anyone wants to join, I guess we give a couple of minutes for people to join. But
yeah. I think if the link is out again.
Maybe just make some more points about Matthew's gospel.
Did you want to do that, Nazam? What's your view? What's points would you like to make?
It's difficult to comment on Matthew's historicity without commenting on the other writings of the New Testament. When it comes to Matthew's teaching of the law, Matthew seems to contradict what Paul says in his letters, like in Romans chapter 3. Paul seems to view the law as being abolished, whereas Matthew teaches that Christians are expected to obey the law and keep every single commandment. He goes to the extent that Christians should listen to the Jewish teachers because they sit on Moses' chair and they teach the Mosaic law, but you shouldn't do what they do because they don't practice what they preach, but you should nonetheless hear what they have to say, which is contradictory to when Paul says in Romans chapter 3 verses 21, as well as Ephesians chapter 2 verses 14 and 15, that Jesus, with regards to the law, abolish all of its commandments and regulations. So there seems Matthew seems to be like like in loggerheads with the other writers of the New Testament. And there's this writer by the name of Randall Helms. He wrote a book called To the Effect That the Bible at War, and the subtitle is basically how the authors of the Bible are basically at war with one another. That you can pit the different writers one to another, and sometimes the writers are arguing with one another with regards to who Jesus was, what Jesus taught. And this is one example where Matthew has a different view, a high view of the Mosaic law compared to other writers such as Paul.
Okay.
Okay, so we do have someone called El Soco now, so I don't know if that is.
El Soco. Okay.
All right, let's get them on. Welcome, El Soco.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Oh, it's the Soco. Okay.
The Soco. Hello, Ijaz Hamza, everybody. Okay.
Oh, is this Soco from Speaker's Corner? Oh, hi.
Hello. What's your name again? Nazam.
Nazam. Yeah. Hi, Soco. Hi.
To be honest, I didn't know that Soco was a specific person. I just
good to see you guys are making the same mistakes, criticizing the Bible when you guys already been refuted. So let's go straight to the chase. We want to challenge Ijaz on the historicity of Mecca.
Soco.
We want to know whether he's going to be applying the same methodological historical approach to Mecca.
Mute in a second. Okay, Soco. This is a Matthew stream. Yeah. You're here to challenge what we said about the historicity of Gospel of Matthew. Now, this is the third stream. You're here to come and tell us something we said that you believe is incorrect, not to come on here and challenge for a debate.
Yeah.
First, deal with the debate that's kind of going on here, and then we can establish your credentials.
I think he's looking for some material.
I believe so.
So okay, you're unmuted.
Okay, Hamza, I'm chatting to the circus leader.
Yeah.
Not the clown. Okay, not the clown.
Hasta luego.
The challenge is the following, my friend. Yeah,
Jordan,
you be criticizing the Bible.
Hasta luego.
So I don't understand why they have to be so aggressive. You were waving at the guy, smiling with him, and I think this speaks to the spirit in his heart. Do we have another? Do we actually have an actual person willing to have a discussion, Jordan, in the back?
Mary's still here, and Mary's willing to come back on.
Can I just, Yahya Snow is a good channel to visit with regards to this whole historicity and origins of Islam.
Hello, Mary.
Hello again.
Hi.
All right.
Hi, Mary. Hi.
Hello. Okay, so to get through the rest of my point, maybe we could do this quickly. There was a lot of discussion about the meaning of what exactly or who exactly are the Magi.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Do I need to go into detail? Because again, each of you had somewhat of a different perspective, but what I do remember was that it was being attached to magicians and someone who would be, the meaning of the word would have been somebody who worked magic. And Hamza, you had one particular point where you talked about
oh my God,
conflicted with the Old Testament, but I don't remember what it was.
Say it again, sorry.
You had to the definition of the word Magi that had something to do with the.
That was Ijaz.
Again, that was me, Mary. The one with the glasses.
You do look alike, guys. I have to say.
How do you guys look the same?
Mary, Mary, turn down your mic a little bit.
They both look like Gallagher.
I already did. Okay, I mean it's still down. Let's do.
Keep going a little bit more.
Okay.
Little bit more.
There.
Beautiful.
Okay. She was sounding fine to me, guys.
No, it was kind of echoey. Go on.
Okay. All right. Okay. So nonetheless, I decided to look up. I really get into. I invent my own words, but I also love to take a look at the etymology of words and find out, where they come from. So I was looking for what I found to be the oldest definition of the word Magi. My source is, believe it or not, it's something called Encyclopedia Iranica. And I liked it because it actually quotes, references several different ones. I'm just going to read this short little blurb about it. The earliest references to the Magi in Greek literature are in the Persians of Aeschylus, where he mentions amagus. Now, what interested me right there was the similarity in language. I've taken Latin, and I've kind of kept up on it over the years. And the male ending US it would be Latin, and plural would be an I added to it. So in Latin, it would be magus or magus, and in plural, it would be magi. But they're talking about this being in Persian literature. Anyway, magus called Erebus, who perished during the Battle of Salamis in 480 before Christ, as well as in a fragment of Heraclitus written about 500 years before Christ. But our chief source about the Magi during the Achaemenid period in the histories of Herodotus, he states that Xerxes did not undertake any important decisions without preliminary advice of the Magi. What they primarily did was interpret dreams. They issued prophecies, and because they were perceived in some sense as being religious leaders, they accompanied the Persian army on campaigns. So that is why, over to Ijaz, when you take a look at the heading, it talks about the Magi being the three wise men, and it talk about them being the three magicians. So what I also figured out is that if you go back to the year 1400, and especially in 1600, you begin to see the evolution of that word Magi, where you then get involved in things like being soothsayers and performing magic deeds, and that the word magic then evolved out of that word that was originally magus. Okay. So that's what I found out, just to throw that in.
But Mary, as people who interpret dreams generally are soothsayers.
I don't know that if you looked up soothsayers, I think that soothsayers could also be people who would be palm readers and doing
interpreters of dreams and astrologers. And interpreters of dreams and astrologers.
But what I'm saying is that those things, Hamza, are not in that line of that text.
Okay, here's Ijaz.
Okay, so Mary, are you familiar with something called the genetic fallacy, that the origin of a word determines its later meaning? So that technically is an error in reasoning. And what I've done is, when I gave a definition for it, I gave it within the biblical context, and I used Strong's lexicon. So right now I've got Strong's lexicon here on blueletterbible.org. And I don't know if you can see it, but it says sorcerers, soothsayers, astrologers. Do you see all of that there?
Seers, interpreters of dreams.
What is the last one? Can you guys read that line for me?
I can't read it.
Sorcerers.
The very C, under the heading C.
Oh, a false prophet and sorcerer.
And this is strictly for what? Outline of biblical usage.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand the context in which it is used within biblical literature. I think that is a better teacher on the meaning of the word as opposed to the etymology of it.
Well, that may be true, but again, what I was reading was the other side of it, where that other string of all those other things that have become attached to the word Magi possibly were later additions, evolutions of that word.
I don't doubt that the word has evolved over time, but my use of the word is in line with.
I think what I really like about Christianity and where we are in the 21st century is that Christians have absolutely no problem at all laying out the good, the bad, and the other. There is nothing you can say that that somewhere we can't do our research and find something that satisfies us in terms of an evolution of a word or a meaning of something, and provides us with with satisfaction of our understanding of the word. So for me personally, I go back to the earliest use of the word rather than the evolution down the road to 14.
Mary, he just gave you the biblical lexicon understanding of the word. Why are you ignoring the Bible version of the word?
That's exactly my point, Hamza. Christians, when we take a look at Scripture, we take a look at the good, the bad, and the other.
Mary, have you ever heard of Mary, have you ever heard of two words called confirmation bias? Because you seem to just take it from sources that suit your worldview and ignore others that don't.
Well, you know what, Hamza? I'm sure all of us do that, don't we?
Yeah, no, I know, but you're deliberately ignoring the biblical version of something because it doesn't suit your worldview, and you're trying to find something, scrabbling in the dark, that does match your worldview. Anyhow, what's your next point?
My next point is something that has to do with Herod and the innocents.
Oh, lovely.
I decided to ask the question on Google, and I'm not done researching this, but I just kind of wanted to get this point in.
You asked Google.
I did a Google search, but
okay.
I'm about going into libraries. I have access to a number of university libraries. So.
Fantastic. What did you come up with? What were we wrong about?
Okay, not wrong. I asked a different question.
Okay.
And the question I asked is, what else about the life of Herod was not included in Josephus's narrative, in his writing?
Okay. Very good question. The question that needs to be asked, though, is what was written about Josephus? Was any of it worse than killing all the babies in Bethlehem and the surrounding villages?
Anything what? No, that
anything worse.
Let me make my point, Tom. So if you would allow me to make my point,
all right.
just so you can see where I'm at in terms of doing some research.
All right, go on. I'm sorry.
Okay. My point is that one of the primary criticisms of Josephus is that apparently, and I'm trying to get access to this document and have not yet been successful because I don't want to pay $75 for it to read it in a library. But there was apparently someone called Nicholas of Damascus. And Nicholas of Damascus was probably the only individual who could stand Herod during that time. And Nicholas of Damascus was also, in some ways, he was the best friend and possibly the only friend that Herod had. What is surprising to quite a few of the papers I've read is that Josephus did not use Nicholas of Damascus as his principal source for talking about the last days of Herod, which, if you know anything about Herod, he died an absolutely hideous death, including gangrene of his male bits and pieces.
Mary, you said that too happily. I'm worried.
So what I'm telling you is that the question then becomes, why didn't Josephus include Nicholas of Damascus's information? Now, what I'm trying to do is to read Nicholas of Damascus. I'm trying to gain access to read his document.
All right.
To see if he has innocence in it.
So you're saying if Nicholas of Damascus did record it,
and what else did he leave out? And what?
So what you're saying is then, according to what you're saying, did Nicholas of Damascus write about the atrocities of King Herod?
Yeah, he wrote about Herod.
I thought he was his friend.
Was in it.
No, but you said he was his friend.
Yeah.
Right. So his friend is going to write the bad things he did.
He was his counsel.
All right, that's what I'm saying to you. So he's basically biased in what he's writing anyway, whereas Josephus is just writing about King Herod.
Actually,
see, maybe the information from Nicholas of Damascus, maybe the information that Nicholas of Damascus has is biased, and that's why Josephus didn't take it, because he couldn't be sure if it was true or not.
Excuse me, but it says here, but also Josephus's account is frankly hostile towards Herod.
Is what?
Josephus was biased against Herod with what he wrote.
I agree. So why is he not writing about the killing of the babies?
Well, that's what I want to find out from Nicholas of Damascus, because one of the statements is that it simply was not that big of a deal.
Okay, so killing of babies, okay. So what you're saying is killing of babies, Mary, you're saying killing babies from the age of 0 to 2 in Bethlehem and all the surrounding villages was not a big deal.
At that time, I wonder if it was. Why don't you research that, Hamza, and let us know?
What would you like me to research? How many babies? How many babies do you think are born in Bethlehem?
The value of children and the value of Jews. Why don't you research that?
But they were Jews.
That's what I'm saying.
Mary, do you have another point? Because
it makes no sense what you're saying.
No,
yes, it do make sense, but you're not understanding it.
No, you know what you basically said, from what I understand, is that Mary. Let me just so we can make sure we've heard your point. So you've said basically Josephus was biased to King Herod. Therefore, he really emphasized on all the horrible things he did, right? Mm-hmm. But he didn't record this particular killing of the babies because you don't think it's a big deal, okay? Or he didn't think it was a big deal. Oh no, sorry. Josephus didn't think it was a big deal. Okay.
I'm not saying.
All right. Then you brought a new player into the game called Nicholas of Damascus, who is, as you said, King Herod's friend. And then you asked the question. No, but one second, Mary. Your words were Nicholas of Damascus was King Herod's friend.
Yeah.
And then you said, why didn't Josephus get anything from Nicholas of Damascus? And then that's why I said maybe Josephus didn't trust what Nicholas of Damascus said because he's a friend of Herod. Therefore, he'll give him all the good stuff. Yeah. And your whole point was maybe there was other atrocities that didn't get written about, as if Nicholas of Damascus may have written about different atrocities that Josephus didn't. So according to your logic, Nicholas of Damascus, when you do your research in your university, he should have written about the killing of the babies.
Nicholas of Damascus lived longer than Herod.
Yeah, well, that's got nothing to do with what I just asked you.
So the question is, when someone dies who is absolutely hated by the people, what happens to those closest? All of a sudden, human nature says, oh, well, let me tell you this and this and this about him. So what I'm telling you is that you can't look at a cut and paste profile of a human being and their motives for what they write.
I agree.
Unless you understand who they are and the time in which they live.
But Mary, you're believing that. Yeah, but you're believing this very thing for this. What you've just said you can't do, because you believe Matthew cut and paste. You don't know who he was or where he was writing, where he got his information from. Yeah, you take it as
I agree that Matthew wrote the Gospel of Matthew.
That's what I'm saying to you. You don't know that.
Words that I've never said. You asked me earlier if I believe that Matthew wrote Matthew, and I said yes.
And why do you believe that? Why do you believe that?
Makes sense, Hamza.
Well, Frank didn't think so. Why do you believe Matthew wrote Matthew?
That's another topic. I want to share.
No, this is the topic.
No, that is the topic.
This is the stream for that topic. Anyway, bring on your next point. That was dead. Go on.
Could I just mention something quickly?
Sure.
Mary, I think I understood your point. You were trying to say perhaps it is because you haven't seen what Nicholas wrote in his universal history as yet. And you were presupposing that perhaps it contains some information which may corroborate some of the biblical literature. Is that correct?
Right.
Right. So in my quick search of it, just generally speaking, it doesn't seem like that work has survived. There are some late excerpts of it, and it does not seem to mention the killing of the children. But perhaps it is. I could be wrong in my brief search. And what I'll do is, Mary, next week, if I do find anything, I might link it in the chat, and perhaps you can follow up on it. Okay?
Did
you have another point?
We we're really going to have a discussion, then we have to consider all angles of it. You know, this just isn't, pardon the expression, but a contest. And sometimes you guys turn it into that.
Well, men, that's what men do. That's why it's called a pissing contest.
Right. Well, I'm a woman here, and I think that's absolutely a stupid man thing.
We're Muslims. We believe in equality.
Which brings up my next point.
Okay.
Okay. A while back.
Oh, no. How far back?
Back in Mark, as well as in Matthew, and as well as in Luke, there is the story
of the fig tree
who was healed of bleeding. And where that ended was with Imran making a statement about questioning, I suppose, now I think that was Ijaz, the unmarried Ijaz.
I think Mary should be given a slot here, guys. I really do.
What?
I think you should be given a permanent spot here, Mary. I think.
That's what I said. We should give her her own little corner.
And she's
keep her on mute for a while and just let her out of the box now and again.
As long as you say the unmarried Ijaz every 15 minutes, you have a permanent slot here. Yeah.
All right. With air, the unmarried Ijaz with air. Okay. How tall are you, by the way?
I'm short. I'm really short. I'm under 6 feet.
I have two sons, 1 foot 2, 1 foot 3. So, yeah. Okay, we come from tall people. All right, so what I wanted to bring up was about the woman. And I wanted to ask Imran, I'm really curious, as a doctor, what is your primary area of expertise?
General medicine.
So general medicine. So we would call that here either a general practitioner, and sometimes they call them internists here in the U.S. General practitioner, that term is faded out of U.S. practice. Okay. Do you ever see women?
All the time.
Well, in terms of dating or patients, because be careful on that one.
Is Imran married?
I am, yeah. Alhamdulillah.
What?
I am, yes. Alhamdulillah.
You are? Oh, okay. All right. Do you... let me just throw some terms at you, because I don't want to go into detail on this.
You seem
Mary,
like you want to.
Is this actually something that can be broadcast to the younger audience, is what I really want to ask before you go any further.
This is life.
Okay.
This is life.
This is life. Grow up, kids.
Imran, this is your life.
Suck it up.
My life, apparently.
Did you with any arm?
Three Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and we won't talk about Luke yet. Do either of those indicate the age of the woman?
Young woman. No, it said that she's been suffering for the problem for 12 years, I think.
That's right. It was a long-term problem.
That's right. It doesn't say anything about her age.
No, it doesn't.
Not necessarily.
No. Okay. Now let me ask.
Actually, hold on. I think the word used, I think, in Greek refers to woman and not young woman. So she could be above the age of 20, I think.
Good, because what I want to say is that woman is many of us. There are lots of us who are exactly like that woman. And I would like to suggest a few terms here. Pelvic organ prolapse, neurogynecology.
Blame you, Jordan.
Pessary, the erosion of the uterus resulting in fistulas. If you guys have any familiarity with Second World and what I still, because I'm old, would refer to as third world countries, you would know these terms because this would be describing your mother's...
Mary, make your point.
Yeah.
Just make the point.
The point is that the woman in that story is me.
You've aged really well, Mary, I have to say.
Yeah.
That woman is me.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm sorry to hear that, Mary.
And after years and years and years, the answer is to read scripture, follow God's lead.
You're not preaching, are you?
Where it says to call somebody, you do it. And that individual is a urogynecologist, a doctor of women only over the age of 65, typically, who work with the woman and perform a certain kind of surgery.
Mary, could I respond a little bit to the points that you're making? So, what I think the question specifically that was asked was about, because what happens is that the woman's immediately ceases having bleeding. That's the narrative that's given.
Yes.
So the question was not really about the origins of the bleeding, and you've listed a few things that are quite rare actually in the West, but you've listed a few of them. Maybe if the uterine product is not so rare in the older person. The question really was about if the bleeding were to stop, would it be immediately apparent?
Yes.
And so we discussed it from that angle. So what we were thinking, what the few points were made. If you're using some sort of material to catch the blood that's coming, the menstrual blood, and the bleeding were to cease, then you would not really have an idea of that unless there was unless there was a big flow, so that there's a big flow coming and you can feel the flow stop. But you wouldn't still then be sure if there was no blood coming until you went and checked. And that's what the point that we were making. You've sort of raised a lot of other things which are not really about what we were talking about. I'm very sorry that's the problem that people are going through, and there are lots of women that have this. But we were talking about the sensation of the blood stopping from flowing. Specifically, that was really what it was about. Yeah. And I said it depended on the degree of the flow, and if there was a way of verifying it later on. Does that make sense?
So Mary, if I just may say something, I think that you are brave for raising the issue and for being willing to discuss it, and we're thankful for voices like yours that are willing to discuss difficult problems. And I'm happy that you're here. We laugh and we cry with you. Yes. So I understand your point of view, and I thank Dr. Imran for his input. And I hope you understand the point that we were trying to make. It was not to belittle the woman, but to discuss the intricacies of the immediate context of the text. That's all we were saying.
I can vouch that when Jesus healed the woman, that is absolutely, when healing happens, the feeling inside of you is it's over.
All right.
I never knew it was over with pessaries. And
did he know? Okay, here's on point now. Did he know who touched him?
Ask yourself the question, why did Jesus ask me? Why did he ask her that question?
He doesn't in the Gospel of Matthew.
No. Is it because he didn't know? No.
No. In the first, why? What do you mean? In the Gospel of Mark, he says, "Who touched me?" In the second, in Matthew, same story. He knows who's touched him.
Mm-hmm.
So, did he know or did he know?
Both.
All right, Mary. Always a pleasure. See you next time. Gospel of Luke.
Too bad you don't let me finish.
No, that was ironic.
That was a little bit unfair, guys.
Who got Mary?
You don't let me finish.
Sorry, what happened?
A little bit unfair, guys.
That was an accident.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Mary.
Could I just say, I think I have to, a lot of respect towards Mary because she spoke about a personal topic.
Yeah.
And we have to give her the respect for that. And we hope that whatever she's going through, that it improves and her health is good. And the point that was specifically being made was not about causes of what was happening, which is what really Mary was talking about. We were talking about the sensation of the bleeding stopping and how you would verify that. And Hamza raised an amazing point that actually even the person performing the healing apparently was unaware that the healing had happened or who had touched him, which is sort of more to the point. We're talking about the historicity of that act from happening.
I just want to apologize to Mary if we did remove her too quickly on.
But it was Jordan who does the removal.
She's still here. Was it removed? Let me get back.
He was a little bit. You didn't give a chance to finish.
Let her finish her statement, please, if possible.
I didn't mean to chuck you off, Mary, prematurely there.
Sorry, yeah, it's an accident. Sorry.
No, it wasn't an accident. I've heard every word that was said. And you guys don't look in a mirror at yourselves, really. One of the previous guys, that Frank fellow, I have
very emotional.
I have really had to call on the Holy Spirit in order to love you guys.
Oh.
And Hamza is laughing because he's never experienced what some of us have experienced.
Mary, I think I really want to say that,
there are miracles that happen.
Mary, can I just say something very quickly?
Imran, let me make this point.
Sure.
There are miracles that happen. The Quran talks about that Jesus did miracles, and yet I don't see any except one that is a stupid one. But there's no miracles that I see of Jesus in the Quran. Where are they? That report of the woman is reported in 3 Gospels because her misery and her blood flow ended immediately, and she knew it ended. And Jesus asked, who touched me? Why? You have to ask, why would he ask for that? You guys are very shallow in understanding scripture.
Mary, I really appreciate the point.
Thank you. So
no problem, Mary. Don't go yet, Mary. I just wanted to say, if you felt that there was any disrespect towards you or the topic, it's not intended. So I apologize if that was the case. Okay.
I apologize.
The point that we were really making was not about her experience in terms of how she would in a theological way, in a miraculous way, no, but actually how you would go about verifying the blood had stopped. And we were talking about checking, really. It wasn't meant to slight the ailment that the lady was suffering with. It wasn't meant to slight the difficulty she had over the 12 years that she was suffering. And if you heard some of the things we were saying, we were hoping that God gives you a good health and a long life and guides us all. So it's not we're not doing this in a negative way. We're not trying to be pejorative. We're just trying to approach it specifically and quite the angle that we're going for is a historical angle only. We're trying to be very neutral. And miracles don't really fall into the historical angle, if I'm very honest with you. So that's why we were trying to work out how we would verify this from what have actually happened. So any offense, my apologies, please accept that. And I wish you all the best, Mary. And please come again.
Please do.
Yeah.
I don't think I will, because you guys really need to examine. Nazam is probably the nicest guy here, and I think
100%. We agree with you.
You've left me out of it.
John's been around the block a few times, and he has history and experience behind him. You guys don't, and you're not really respecting people. You say you do, but look at how often you have to apologize for yourselves. That speaks a lot. I'm not apologizing for myself. I'm not insulting you. If I've said anything in humor that hurts your feelings, Hamza's back, including Hamza, then I apologize for that. But I don't say things intentionally in order, as Hamza would say, to put another wood on the fire and up it to really irritate Christians. That's why you don't have Christians on here.
Man, you're talking nonsense. You're talking nonsense. Look, you didn't mean to upset me. I don't mean to upset anybody. And like I said many, many times, truth is a bitter pill to swallow. That's it. Let me tell you my mantra. Mary, just listen. This is my mantra. Yeah? Sometimes I'll hurt you with the truth, but never comfort you with a lie. That's it. I don't intend to humiliate and ridicule. No. Just sometimes it hurts people because what they realize is what they've believed all their lives is being smashed to pieces in front of them, and they can't take it. So I can't do anything about that. We're here delivering truth. That's it. Like it, don't like it. It is what it is. But no one here, any of these on the panel, especially me, we're not here to humiliate or upset or anything like that. It just
why do you laugh then?
Because I find things funny that people say.
You find it funny.
Yes.
And people say things seriously and you laugh at what they say. Hamza, that doesn't make sense if you...
Here's the thing, Mary. They think what they're saying is serious, and to me, it's not serious.
You better be ready for what people are going to say about the Quran, because you got a lot of crap.
Mary, we're gonna do at least 4 streams on the Quran, yeah? And you're invited. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Mary. Just because you believe something is true and serious doesn't mean I need to. I think it's delusional what you believe. So I find it humorous, and if I'm going to laugh, I'll laugh.
Hamza, then let me just say back to you. I think it's extremely sad what you guys believe, what all of you believe. It's sad.
Yeah.
And I hope I get a chance to share those things with you. When we start looking into
always welcome to, Mary. Always welcome to.
All right.
1 second. Nazam wanted to speak with you if possible. Nazam?
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, like, we should learn to develop to have more empathy for people, especially me. I wouldn't like it if someone laughed at my beliefs or the way I talk, or sometimes even stutter and that. So in the same way, I feel I shouldn't do it to others as well. I've heard someone give the example, like, you know, like we all believe in free speech, like just because we have the right to, like, you know, like cuss or this doesn't mean that we should. So in a similar way, like we have a right to like mock or laugh at one another, but just because we have the right doesn't mean that we should
exercise it.
I think that's what the definition. When you take a look, the study I've done about the word Dawah, it's not to turn people off.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, the word linguistically, Dawah means...
No, let's mock outrage. Mary, do you remember you doing this to us? Do you remember that?
I was just about to bring that up, Mary, because you're
kind of innocent. Don't act like you're outrage.
Hold on.
Did I not apologize for that?
Oh, so you can do the outrage, and you know, please don't give the mock outrage. Yeah, you give as good as you get. So please don't act all innocent. Please, I appreciate that.
Mary,
I'm not acting all innocent. I apologize, but I don't have.
I also apologize.
I don't have the show and try to get Christians in to talk, or Muslims in to talk to me over and over and over again, and then have people be upset to the point that you guys have to.
Mary,
that kind of humor is silly humor. I'm not out to laugh at people when they say something and the look on their face is very serious. And what Nazam just said, thank you very much for saying that. I feel like you really represent the Dawah side of Islam, of being a Muslim.
I mean, we're all students here. We're all learning
as we
to become better and so on. I mean, you've had far more life experience than all of us, and you're our elder and our guest as well. So
thank you.
And it can't be easy, like having 4 or 5 people.
Well, that's right. It's killing.
Yeah.
And there are no women on your board. So when you guys were talking about women and menses and all this kind of stuff, I'm sitting here thinking, that's really not, that doesn't represent the population, guys. You need a woman. Where's the women?
It was a doctor talking about that. You know,
Mary, no, actually, we were talking about the Bible, Mary. We weren't talking about women and menses.
In general.
We were talking about the Bible. So thank you very much, Mary. I appreciate everything. And we wish you all the best. And please come to later next streams as well. We appreciate it.
Have a good day. And we welcome you when we speak on the
Goodbye, Mary.
Take care.
Cool. I've got to say that felt a bit tactical at the end there, because I don't know what happened.
Listen, it's pure mock outrage. Honestly,
that was
She come with her points. They got
suddenly
smashed,
changed,
and then it was all emotion. Now I know Nazam, you're a good guy. I know that.
No,
No, you are. You are. Even with a rough guy, you're still like this. So I get that.
I think
we got an Ijaz, we got an Imran, and we got an Nazam. Yeah?
She has a point. Like, you know, why is it that, you know, Christians are not coming onto the channel?
Because they get smashed.
But yeah, I mean, we should try to avoid smashing them and just kind of like do it like in like
The
just
way
to
that
live.
Brother
No,
Nazam,
you got it wrong, Nazam.
counterpoint. We smash the arguments, not the
We're smashing the arguments. We're not
Yeah,
smashing
sure,
Christians.
yeah.
They've got no arguments. They've got no defense. That's the whole point. We give them the
Talking
opportunity.
about smashing, I'm pretty sure that the Christians uploaded a thumbnail with me in a boxing match with someone. So
Yeah.
they equally are guilty.
All we need to do is go through these Christian channels and Facebook pages and see how delightful Christians are. Obviously, if I find something humorous, I'll laugh. That's it. I'm not mocking the person. I'm mocking the argument.
Christians that do, they don't represent the vast majority of Christians in the world. Like there's 2 billion Christians, and most Christians don't act or behave like that. And and we don't want to start a war or fight with people. At the end of the day, we're all adults. We've all been to school, and we're no longer in like the playground. And
Nazam, I'm not going to start an argument with you, but you've got Dr. Imran, you've got beautiful brother Ijaz, and you've got yourself. Yeah, you guys can have beautiful chit chat. It's lovely. Alhamdulillah. I'm going to step in when I see the person waffling or becoming delusional. That's it, or going off point. That's all I do.
If I may say, I think we have a good representation. Everyone has a different style in the way that they conversate. Like Nazam is gentle, Brother Hamza is a bit less gentle, and I look at myself as 50-50. I don't know about Rob, which one is Robert? I don't know what Robert's style is, but I know when he's swinging that he's smart. Brothers, it's almost 2. Actually, it's just past 2 hours since we began the stream.
600 people as well.
Alhamdulillah. And there was a funny comment. I realized that when we were discussing the biological topic, people were they were supposing if you joined the stream at that point and you looked at the title and you listened to the content, you'll be wondering what the hell is going on. Do we have a fourth and final person, perhaps, in the back chat?
We do, but you know the fellow I brought on before that you said was Muslim, Mudash.
Oh no, he's Muslim. We were looking for Christians. I
also
understand.
have Double D.
Oh no!
Wasn't he here last?
He was all right actually, and he might have done some homework.
Is that Stefan? Is it Stefan? I can't remember.
I don't know.
No, let's have him on.
Okay.
Because he is a Christian, and that's who we want. Didi, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can't. Not the best staff in the world.
Hi, Didi. You're welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you, mate. We can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Right. Hi, everyone.
Hello,
Hi.
Didi.
Welcome, Didi.
Yeah, I just came into the live stream maybe like 5 minutes ago.
Oh no!
And
That is
okay.
introduction.
That's not the greatest start. Unless you did research from last week.
Wait, I was actually following it up, but I went to do something. I am back, and I listened to the last 5 minutes, and I observed that the spirit is very high, especially from the Hamza side, and it's okay. But I just want to say something. If
You're not gonna make me laugh, are you?
I listened. No, I want to. If
laughing already.
I'm a Christian. If I'm a Christian, no, you can laugh. No, you're allowed to laugh. But as far as it's just nothing has to be like mockery or something. So, if I like a Christian listening to your first live stream about the crucifixion of Jesus, I don't really think it will be of a good idea to waste my effort. Please, I'm sorry, just let me to conclude this. Don't just jump on. Let's allow me to conclude. A good effort coming into the live stream to communicate. And I can see why many Christians don't bother. There is a reason, because there is when you are listening to people communicating or trying to bring out, maybe communicating about a particular religion or a particular issue about a religion, and they also have their own religion at the back of their mind. And when you are bringing evidence, they are pushing all the evidence aside with all manner of excuses, working with the bias at the back of their mind. It's very difficult to communicate. So sometimes, wait, I'm coming to Matthew first. I'm coming to Matthew. Let me just make my point. I'm going with Mary, what the last point. It's very difficult to communicate.
Please. We're not
So
interested in
now,
emotions.
moving on
Bring
to
your
the
points. Bring
points
your
now.
points.
Moving to the point now.
Thank you.
About the killing of the babies. I think in the last stream I was trying to ask Hamza why he was saying that, oh, I'm agreeing with you guys because we don't know. See, at the end of the day, the argument of silence is not, I don't think, is a good one. If you want to hold on to a consistency in terms of any kind of history, you want to be consistent with history. The argument of silence to me is not enough. Although there is this guy I read about, Macrobius. I don't know where I've heard about him. He also wrote about he actually make in his books. There's a comment he made about the killing of babies. He's a Jew. He's a Roman historian. Yeah, Macrobius. I think you should check that out.
Do you have
He's
a
not a
reference
Christian.
for what you're saying, Didi?
Macrobius wrote in the third century thereabout. I know he wrote about the killing of babies.
In the third century.
Let me read the act. Oh, I might have to cut this. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me go to the quote he made.
So
Macrobius make a quote is like when he heard that among the boys in Syria under 2 years old, whom Herod, the king of Jews, had ordered killed, his own son was also killed. He said, "It is better to be Herod pick than his son." I think that's one. I think there's one other reference.
Okay, Didi.
Reference about the killing of it. Yeah.
Pay attention to what I'm going to ask you, okay? One, I'm going to reject the first point that you made because it is absolutely nonsense to come here and tell me that you're coming with Muslims have a bias. Don't the Christian channels equally have a bias? And it's ridiculous in the second place. I didn't interrupt you. You asked me not to interrupt you. In the second place, when you mentioned that we're dismissing the evidence, to the contrary, we look at the evidence, we examine, we question, and we interpret it. So you can't say we dismiss by examining it. They're two different things. On the point you've just mentioned, I asked you, what is your reference for that claim? Because you're telling me he wrote it in the 3rd century. What is his source to get that in the 3rd century? Because that's almost 300 years after Herod. What is this person's historical source?
It doesn't matter, Hamza. I mean, it just a history coming. Wait. Let me make my point. It just funny. Although I don't listen to people say you guys look alike. I don't listen to you guys looking alike. Well, anyway, let me move forward. Writing in the 2nd century or 3rd century about the history that happened in the 1st century does not dismiss the whatever century the information appears doesn't matter because you just need to walk your way back to the 1st century. There's a person that wrote about this issue. That was Matthew, and someone rehearsed it in the 3rd century. That's enough evidence. So if you want to walk by history, that's enough evidence. You don't need to say, "Oh, what century?" Because I know Ijaz, this is what you do. I've observed this in most of your argument. When someone brings a strong point, you try to rock.
Didi, you gotta listen to what I asked you, right? So you said to me,
because I know where you are going to. Because that's not the point. I want you to work with what I have now. Didi. We have Macrobius that wrote in the 3rd century. Do you know? Okay, let's start. Do you know Macrobius?
Didi, please, I'm begging
you. Do you know him?
Question to you, right? You said to me someone 3rd century wrote it, and I'm asking you, what is that person
2nd to 3rd century? 2nd to 3rd
what
century.
Is that person's source of information? Because you telling me about the historical method. One of the things
I might not have it now, Didi, but I will actually check.
Didi,
go and check.
My point, right? Because you said to me, Ijaz, I know what you do. Let me tell you what I do. When someone makes a claim, the very next thing that you have to do is qualify that claim. If you say that X happened in Y century, you ask, well, okay, what is your source for that claim? This is the very first thing you do when you write a paper. You list your sources. So, okay, you told me a person wrote in the 2nd to 3rd century, and then to ask you where did they get that information from is something wrong. What is wrong about asking what is the source of that information?
No. I'm not saying it is wrong for you to ask that question. That's not my point. I'm just saying that because we're trying to walk back to the at what century, I was trying to say that doesn't matter. Because I was specifying that you're trying to go and make an argument of what century did they write on all those. It doesn't matter. There is a historian that wrote something on the 3rd century, reflecting on what someone has already wrote in the 1st century. So it has two people make. So wait now, let me. I was quiet for you to make a point. That's at least a little of enough evidence. You understand? Now you are asking me that where did he get this information? Well, Macrobius is a historian. I don't know where he got his information from, but according to what I read, he did not get his information from any Christian. Because he is a secular writer. He's not religious. Because where he was even writing from at the 3rd century was not even a religious environment. Let me look at the environment where he was writing from.
Right, so hold on.
I'm coming. I'm going to get to.
Hold on. Okay. I listened to you very patiently. You just said to me that he is a historian and he mentioned it is good enough. That's not how we do history. So anyone can tell you who's done even a primary school class on history, you always try to qualify the sources made because people can make mistakes, people make errors. That is why people have done entire PhD programs on looking at the sources and the differences between what Josephus said and what the archaeological record demonstrates for us. A Christian podcast, Unbelievable, had Peter Williams, a Christian historian, discussing this very same topic with Dr. Bart Ehrman, and the both of them acknowledged, yes, that you have to qualify your sources. So it's not good enough for you to say to me, as a historian, therefore we must believe it. If that is the case, then there are many historians writing in the 7th and 8th century about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Would you accept their evidence about him being a prophet and coming with revelation? No, because you would ask me, what is the source of the information? So I'm using equal scales here. It's consistent methodology. So Didi, do you have a reference for your claim? And how do you know what kind
of reference do you want? What kind of reference do you want?
The first thing is you're reading a quote for me.
There are many people that wrote. Let me tell you, there are many people that wrote things about the event that happened in the history, of which you cannot really get a reference from because most of those might be lost. Like
okay,
you don't know where he got his information from. Excuse now.
Right now, do you know what the source of this historian was?
Don't worry. I'm talking to him.
I understand, but we've got other people waiting, and we're just asking you a simple question.
If you don't want me to talk, like other Christians, you don't allow to talk.
Do you know who the source is?
There are a lot of things, a lot of points I want to make. I'm just beginning.
No. You can't begin like this, Didi. You can't begin like this. He asked you, if you don't know the source, just say you don't, and that's it, and move on to your next point. Don't start explaining why. Just because you don't know the source, it doesn't mean such and such.
But he was explaining why I need to know the source, and
which is correct.
I'm trying to reply him.
No
why?
Need to.
That you know. Okay. That means I'm not allowed here. All right, no problem. You guys can believe in whatever. Yes, because you can't. No. You can't. No problem. If you allow Hamza to make a point, and you don't allow, if you allow Ijaz to make a point, why he's asking me about a reference of a historian, of a history.
You said you don't know who the source is, though. You said you don't have a reference now. You don't know who did it.
Okay, Hamza, you're frustrating me. Anytime I come on this show, you frustrate me. That's it. I think I'm not.
Oh, the irony.
He's just talking. We are just talking. You were looking for a Christian. You were talking about no extra sources about the killing of a baby, and I'm here talking about Macrobius. Do you know Macrobius?
Okay, I'll say it again to you. You said your historian was writing in the 2nd and 3rd century.
Right.
Where did he get his information
Nazam,
from?
Imran, Ijaz. Please, thank you very much for at least we've been talking a little. I think without further ado, I don't want to continue in this way. I'm already getting tired. I'm a medical doctor. You see, as if Ijaz is a doctor too. So I've been frustrated. I had a lot of things doing today. So I'll just come in on the show to communicate, and already you are frustrating me. So I have to go back so that
may another time. God bless.
Okay.
See you later, Didi. We've got.
No, I'm sorry, we're running out of time, right? And Ijaz asked a very, very simple question. Where did this historian that he's bringing, Macrobus, whatever it was, where's he getting information from? Now, Didi answered, don't know. And then Ijaz said, as a story, if a story says something, you need to check the archaeological evidence and whatever it may be. He doesn't know. That's it. Go away, do your research, bring that point another time. Start with your next point. Don't start trying to argue against something which you can't argue against. It's just wasting everyone's time, especially when we've got other Christians waiting to speak. That's it.
So
we're not being unfair. Here's the thing. I dislike it when people become professional victims, right? I asked. So Didi came on with a quote, and I simply asked the question, "What is your source for that quote?" He didn't want to give it, and then he said, "Well." Then I followed up, okay, what is the historian's source for this? Because if he's writing in the late 2nd, early 3rd century, that's almost 2 centuries after the time that the event is said to have happened. He could simply be regurgitating what is mentioned in the Gospels.
Exactly.
And so you have circular sources here without like external qualification. And so it's not unfair for us to ask, what is your reference? He mentioned he's just coming here for a conversation. But if we went to the step of having the quote, I'm pretty sure the quote comes with a reference. It's not that hard. Is it that we have to force people to mention sources and cite what they say? If I can come on and I can reference papyri, I can reference when scholars give it a date, and I can qualify my claims, that's very different from coming on here and acting emotional. I don't like it.
That's it. I'm not into this emotional victim playing. Because you did him. You did him on a logical, rational point, and then he wanted to start kind of waffling to cover his tracks, which is like, rather you stop that point, bring another point, because he's got loads of points.
And what I would mention here is I can understand if you had a difficult day. This is not an easy stream to come on because we're going to be examining your beliefs, and certain courtesies may not be extended in all cases. So we're short on time. We've done this for 2 hours now, and there's
over 2 hours.
Yeah, more than 2 hours. So we're not trying to be unfair, but if you're coming on, come with the argument. I don't need to hear that you had a difficult day. That's airing your laundry out in public. I'm not here to find out how your day went. I'm not anyone's therapist, right? I'm just trying to be honest here.
Well, you can.
I've just wasted a quality cup of coffee to hear about how his day went.
We got Daniel.
He works in the NHS, and we are thankful for including people like Imran for their service.
Oh, is he in England?
Yeah, from his accent, it sounded like he was in England.
From his accent?
Yeah.
From his accent, it sounds like in Nigeria.
I'm just being like stereotyped, but yeah. But he said it. But he works for the health service, whether it's in the UK.
He didn't. No. He said he's a doctor. He didn't say NHS or anything like that. And you say by his accent, he sounded like he was from this country. Please, come on, man.
But we wish him the best anyway. It's not really.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, is Daniel waiting, Jordan?
Daniel is here. Yeah, I believe the Hebrew Christian from last time.
Hebrew Israelite.
Hi, Daniel. Welcome.
Hi, Daniel.
First of all, I'm married. You said the last time that I was single. I'm not single. I'm married.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm expecting a baby also. The only thing I want to comment today is the thing about the argument of silence. That's all. Do you think that the eruption of the Mount Vesuvius was real in the 79?
The eruption of
Mount Vesuvius.
Mount Vesuvius or Pompeii?
Well, if there's historical with archaeological record, we say it has a better chance of happening. It would be a more credible event to believe in. Yes.
Okay. So, but the thing is that Plinius was the only one that records that event.
The destruction of the temple. Doesn't Josephus as well mention the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70?
No.
He's talking about something else now.
Oh,
he's talking about Mount Vesuvius.
I'm talking about.
Daniel, just make your point, man. No need to keep asking us questions. Go to your point.
No, that's my point. That when you the thing is that a big event like Mount Vesuvius,
Okay.
the eruption of the 79, has only one record, a contemporary record.
All right.
So, yeah.
I'll tell you why your analogy fails.
Okay.
Can you name me somebody who was monitoring volcanoes in that time who didn't record it?
What?
Can you name me an historian who was monitoring volcanoes and the history of volcanoes who didn't record it?
No, I don't know. I just say
right. So the point where I said your analogy fails. No, but the point where I said your analogy fails. The reason we're talking about Josephus and the Herod and such is that he was specifically writing about King Herod.
No, but the thing is that he's the only one, right? Plinius, the elder, was the only one to write about that event in Mount Vesuvius.
So what's the point you're making?
I'm telling you that the argument of silence is not that powerful. That why didn't Josephus comment?
No. What point are you making with this Pliny the Elder only recording Vesuvius? What's the point you're making?
That the fact that the other historians,
which historians,
the contemporary of the Mount Vesuvius eruption.
Well, after Pliny the Elder, or at the same time?
No, by 100 years after, even.
Okay.
You don't have any other record than Plinius the Elder.
So what's the point you're making?
The point. Okay. The point.
Did you understand what Ijaz said about history being tested against archaeological evidence? Is there archaeological evidence?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yes.
is there archaeological evidence from Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii and all that? Is there archaeological evidence?
Yes, I know.
Is there? Jansen, you're asking questions. I'll ask questions. Is there archaeological evidence from Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii?
Yes.
Right. So it's been historically confirmed. Sorry, archaeologically confirmed that historian was right in what he said. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So what's the point you're making about that? I'm trying to understand that.
I'm just pointing out the fact that you stated before,
right,
to Mary, that why you disproved or discarded source of Mary because Josephus didn't spoke or wrote about.
No. That's not what we said. Okay.
Okay.
What I said is this. Okay. Josephus is specifically writing about all the horrible things King Herod did. Right?
Yeah.
But he didn't write about him killing any babies in Bethlehem and the surrounding villages. What Mary said was there's another guy. Yeah. What was his name? Whatever his name was. I've got it in my phone. 1 second. So at least you know I've been paying attention.
So let me just point out here that
Nicholas of Damascus.
One sec. Pliny the Younger was not the only one. It actually mentions here that Seneca also recorded similar events in history as well, it seems. So yeah.
All right. So what Mary's point was that Nicholas of Damascus, who was a friend of King Herod and counselor, he may have had this information about King Herod killing these babies. And her question was, why didn't Josephus go to this guy to get information on the atrocities King Herod did? And maybe he had the information about him killing the babies, but Josephus wasn't aware of it. But she's already done herself by saying he didn't go to this guy. So clearly Josephus is going to other Jewish sources. Therefore, they would have been aware of the killing of babies and such. So it's not about absence of evidence and such. It's the point of this. We would expect Josephus, if he's writing about the atrocities King Herod committed, to record this atrocity. And when we find the only person who records this atrocity is Matthew. And then you're asking us to believe Matthew and ignore the historians and all of this thing. And then when you look at Matthew and the corruption of Old Testament to support it with prophecy and all of this stuff, that's our claim. Yeah. So it's not the idea that, just because there's one historian writing about it. No, that's not the point. The point is this. This historian was specifically recording the horrible things this guy did, but didn't record that. So the question needs to be asked, why did he ignore that thing? Or did that thing not even happen? And as Nazam has been saying, when you go to the Gospel of Luke, there's no killing of babies. But we're not doing that yet. Next week, inshallah. But the point here is this. So the other gospel, I know you reject Luke anyway. I know you reject Luke anyway, so I'm not going to go there. But the point here is this. You coming on with this idea about this Pliny the Younger writing about Vesuvius and Pompeii and such, it doesn't even, there's no comparison, mate. It doesn't even apply.
My bad.
No worries, Daniel. You've tried again, and we like it. We like you, Daniel. You always come with a smile on your face.
It's good to see you with hair, because the last time I think you were wearing a headpiece. This time we see your hair. I'm a bit jealous because mine isn't as good, but some people would say I've got the hair of Gallagher because apparently I look like a guy who resembles him.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before, because I don't want to say anything wrong. Do you told me that there was another guy that recorded the thing?
Seneca wrote about the earthquakes before the actual eruption, and Pliny the Younger records the same earthquakes before the eruption happened. It says here that Seneca wrote about the earthquakes that damaged homes from that mountains in that region, specifically damaging the homes in Naples, or what was then eventually called Naples as well.
I didn't understand the name.
Seneca, according to this, wrote about the earthquakes resulting from the same earthquake that happened that caused damage to the homes in the area before the volcano itself.
Daniel, do you know what would have really helped your cause? If you said no historian recorded it. That would have made sense.
No. I didn't even came.
No. But what I'm saying is, if you came and said there was an event in history like Vesuvius and Pompeii, and no contemporary historian no historian at the time recorded it, yeah, that would then equate to what we're saying. That there was a Jewish historian at the time writing about King Herod, but he...
Did we lose Hamza?
I think he's frozen.
Frozen in time, unfortunately. Actually, what I'm looking at here, I think Pliny the Younger and Pliny the Elder wrote about it, if I'm not mistaken. Because Pliny the Younger, because he was involved, he was a refugee fleeing from the effects of the earthquakes and eruption, and then his uncle, Pliny the Elder, seems to have given an account as well. What I'll do is I'll put the link in the back chat, and you can follow up on it, okay? Copy link.
Thank you.
Jordan, I'm going to message you it on Messenger. Could you just put it up on the back chat for Daniel? And can someone find out if what's his name, Gallagher is alive or not? Because we lost him. Jordan, it's on the Banter group, I think.
The thing about what Hansa was saying, I don't believe in Yeshua because it's according the history record, right? We have a life of a man that he went in public like for a year, not as someone said that he went 3 years preaching. The thing is,
forgive me, I lost track for a second. Who are you talking about, Paul?
No, Paul, he's so fake. Wow. I'm so well. The thing is that I'm talking about Yeshua. I believe in Yeshua not because the historicity of Yeshua. I believe in him because of the prophecy about Yeshua.
Unfortunately, right. Daniel, we're not dealing with prophecies.
No, I know. I was just answering what Hamza said about the historicity. I came to the chat to the streaming because of the silence argument is not that
convincing for you.
Yeah, no, not for me. Even for many scholars also.
Daniel, the way that this has worked is we started this to focus on the historicity of the event. What it seems to have happened is that the Christians seem to have given up on the historical side of things, and now they're moving primarily to the theological side of things. And Daniel, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, right?
Yeah.
Here's my personal guarantee to you. when we start looking at the theological side of the Gospels,
Yes.
I guarantee you're going to find Christians referencing the historical side of it. That is my personal promise to you. And I want you to come on those streams, and I want you to interact with the arguments that they bring on the historical side of it. Yeah, if you would allow me to do that with you. Because what seems to happen is when we do one thing one week, the Christian reverses it the next week. And this
No, I know. I'm a guy that understands that Elohim, or you say Allah, wants his people to know Him, to have knowledge. Is not that blind faith, that blind faith that the Christian claims. And that's why I don't believe in Paul. That's why I don't believe in Luke.
That's why you're dismissed.
That's what?
That's why you're dismissed.
And I learn so much from the people that doesn't think like me, because then I have more information that I could be ignoring. So I'll test it, and then I can move on in my knowledge process.
Inshallah.
God willing, Daniel. So, Daniel, we're about to wrap up the stream. Thank you for your points.
I think we got one Colossians waiting, actually.
Really?
What?
But,
he's gone now.
We want to congratulate you once again on your marriage and
on your baby. Man.
All right, Daniel, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Take care. All the best.
Shalom.
All right, Dr. Imran, will you summarize, and we'll end the show, I guess, for this week, unless you guys had anything to chime in with.
Was there anything you wanted to say at all, guys?
Yes.
Fire away.
I expected that.
No, it's just I think that there's been this unfair idea that we're kind of mocking and scoffing and taking the mick, laughing at, and all of this business. And I know I said it before, but I'm going to repeat it again. We have three beautiful brothers, mashallah, who are so kind and considerate and speak nicely with you and give you time. And then there's me, right? And I'm not going to allow you to waffle, standard, yeah? And also go off point. So if you start waffling or going off point, just understand I'll step in and make you answer questions. That's it. And all we ask for you is come on, have the courtesy to watch what we're doing and respond to what we're saying. Don't come on here asking us questions, because it doesn't make... You're supposed to be responding to what we've said. Yeah? Not ask us questions and respond to that. We've already said it. So this is just, look, it does get rough and tumble sometimes. Some people do come with delusional ideas. Some people will make me laugh and all of this business. But at the end of the day, we're not here to scoff and mock. We're here to investigate. And I think we've done it nicely. And I think for the Christians to start resorting to this emotional thing. Just for example, I've seen that DD in the comments, right? I didn't say he's not from this country. I respond to what Nazam said, when Nazam said he sounds like he's from this country. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. That's not me saying he's not in this country. Yeah? But just the emotional reaction, the manipulation, the trying to get these... Anyway, emotion doesn't work here, just so you know. We're on a logical tip. And if you come with emotion, you're going to leave emotional. Anyway.
I think people should understand, generally, we aren't all the same people, and we have different personality types. Like, I think that if there was a scale, we would start off with Nazam, maybe Dr. Imran, maybe Brother Jordan, then myself, then Hamza, right? We're all different people, and we have different personality types. And the background that you have, Brother Hamza, and I do recommend that people watch your Coming to Islam video, and, given your story, you will react differently to things in a different way than I would react. Yeah. And I'm happy for the different perspectives, because, diversity really shows that we all don't think the same way, and we all don't interpret the statements of our Christian brothers and sisters in the same way. And where one of us might be charitable and allow some leeway, some of us might prefer just to get down to the brass tacks, the topic of examination, and put it under a magnifying glass. So I'm appreciative for the different flavors, in the same way I'm appreciative of a good football team like Chelsea Football Club. Dr. Imran, would you like to summarize any of your other brothers, if possible?
Okay, so today's been an interesting stream. I think what it's highlighted for actually is exactly what Brother Ijaz was saying, is that people seem to be responding theologically to our historical inquiry. because they're unable to respond historically to the questions that are being raised. So just to summarize, so we've laid out our reasons for looking the way we look at Matthew, the fact that it's unnamed, the manuscripts are earlier unnamed, the name is attributed later. There's a difference between who attributes the name, whether the original gospel was written in what specific language, which is a big difference if you want to consider that. We know that the author copies or takes translations from a Greek translation of a Hebrew Old Testament, when they themselves would have been a Hebrew speaker, so would have been able to translate it directly, but they quote another thing verbatim. So all these things point towards it's unlikely that the person who had written it is attributed to would have actually written it. Then we have other things within the text itself. We've spoken about the boat and the size of the boat, and Mary, God bless her, brought some researched evidence to try and look at the boat and see what was going on. But then the point was still there that it's not a boat that you can lie in a storm and not be sort of affected by the storm, and it would be difficult to sleep through that. And that was really the point that was being made from a historical perspective. We looked at the story of the rising of the rising of the saints, as reported, and the fact that no one actually records it apart from this place in Matthew. And we had Frank who came on, who was very passionate in the way he was speaking, and he was really trying to say that because there is something that we consider truth to be within the text, that therefore we should accept the text is historical. And we were saying that this is a disjuncture; it doesn't actually follow. One doesn't follow from the other, because I could write something now that would contain something that would have happened. It doesn't mean that what I'm writing is therefore automatically historical. And then we had a few other brothers. So I tried to sort of look at. So the other thing that Mary raised, which was quite good, was she tried to talk about the lineage. And her explanation for the lineage was that it's trying to show that Jesus isn't in the line of Jeconiah, when actually the lineage there contains Jeconiah and Jesus is in that line. So it was sort of almost a contradictory statement. And the last thing that Mary, and I'll mention that now, she was talking about the miracle of the healing of the woman. And she was talking as a miracle, this would have been known and she would have felt it. And we were really talking about it from a historical perspective. How would the woman have verified that her bleeding had stopped? And it was really looking at that perspective that she wouldn't have known from that at that moment that this is what would have happened. Again, that point. So we were talking it from a different angle. One was talking historically, one was talking theologically, and I think that's where the mismatch was. And then I think we had another great point from her. She's trying to talk about Herod. So Mary did a lot of research, and we have to take a hat off to her for doing the research. And we wish other Christians would also do that and come on and discuss. When she raised the Nicholas of Damascus, who may have been a counsel of Herod, who had more access to more information. But again, we don't have any information to say he also recorded a atrocity of Herod where he killed children around Bethlehem. We don't have any recording of that either, or at least that wasn't put forward. So the last thing that we had from Daniel, really, he was talking about, we congratulate him on his marriage and his upcoming child. May God give him a healthy child and guard us all, inshallah. He raised a really important point that one historian only records an event according to the research that he had done. And he was saying that what we were making was an argument from silence, which Frank also made. And the point was being made that if somebody's writing specifically about a certain type of atrocities that an individual would have committed, then you would expect them to contain atrocities such as massacring babies in history. And that's not there. So it sort of worked almost against him. So overall, what we've seen amongst these streams is that the historical narrative for Matthew and the historicity of Matthew is easily questionable, and unlikely that the person who's written this is Matthew, and even the events are unlikely to be historically verifiable. Theologically, that's a different question. Obviously, if you come from a theological perspective, that's not what we're dealing with at the moment. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and inshallah, from next week we'll go on to Luke. Is that correct?
Yeah,
inshallah.
Next Sunday.
And what we'll do with the Gospel of Luke, we'll be cross-referencing it with Matthew and Mark as well.
Perfect.
Hamza, just one suggestion. What you should get is one of those masks that people are wearing these days, so people don't see when you smile or laugh. Yeah?
No, I could just do this. Hey! But I'll have a full version of it next time.
Okay, mashallah.
That's so funny.
So, guys, I hope the audience knows that we're not picking on anyone, and we enjoy, like I said, discussing these topics with our Christian brothers.
Yeah.
Who was it who told me I should do this, though? Remind me who said I should look like this.
Yeah, it was very light-hearted. I was quite disappointed with some of the guests today, where I understand the emotion of it and stuff, but when you start manipulating the emotion to look like a victim to try and discredit, I found that quite disingenuous by a couple of the guests today, me personally, because I enjoyed the exchanges. I don't think it's necessary to then pile on the drama when you're like that. And I thought it was quite disingenuous.
If I may say something, I'm happy that some of them left the stream and did some kind of homework. That is something that we highly recommend. But one of the problems is it seems as if they did like very little in some cases. They just went back to double check one thing and not everything else. And I suggest that if they were to go through these streams with a fine-toothed comb, they would actually see that we reference almost everything that we say. And so that argument of you're just relying on the argument from silence does not seem to make sense, because we're trying to cross-reference historical records with archaeological data, with a theological scripture, and they don't all intersect. And so there'll be some hits and misses. But we look forward to.
I have to say, I was really disappointed with Soco. I really thought that he had something to say, and it was just like, what?
What would we expect?
Next time.
And Nazam, do you want to say anything? Do you want to apologize again?
Yeah. So next week, Gospel of Luke, inshallah.
Hey, good man.
And I'm glad we can make some kind of comparison with Luke with the other Gospels.
I know you're dying to do that. You're dying to do that. We'll knock the Herod out of the park with the Gospel of Luke, but
that's only because I don't know that much, so I'm limited in my knowledge. And what I do know is like when you compare them to the other writings. But yeah,
the Christology and such. Yeah,
that's why I'm glad the other brothers are here. So.
I'm glad Ijaz and Imran are here.
Don't make a fool of myself.
No, I doubt that very much, actually.
No, not at all.
I think we've got a lot to learn from you, Nazam, actually. And I think that really your comparisons that you will bring, please do bring them. And sometimes it's very hard to get a word in edgeways because there's a lot of speakers here, but please definitely try and bring your gems that you do bring, please.
Yeah, this cross-reference stuff is your forte. We know that.
Absolutely,
So Mark and Matthew is going to take another beating. Indirectly.
Next week. But like I'm excited.
Next Sunday, then.
All right, brothers.
If you disappoint me next week, Nazam, I'm going to unfriend you because I know that you're like a specialist in this field. So I'm looking forward to some great cross-referencing next week.
Inshallah.
Okay, my brothers.
All right.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Peace.